Welcome back to the Fast Life Podcast. I would like to welcome some new sponsors this month. The Invisivin is for those who want a cleaner look without the risk of removing the down tube VIN label, which is those big-ass ugly stickers, which are eyesores on a big black frame. The Invisivin is a steel powder-coated cover with the strongest N52 rare earth magnets to keep it in place, even for those who stunt, but still be able to remove it for inspection. All covers are made 100% in-house in the USA. Covers start at $39.95 and make an immediate difference for those who ride hard and want to look good while doing it. Head on over to www.invisivin.com and throw that Fast Life offer code in to save yourself 15% off, and give these guys a follow on Instagram at Invisivin. SBC Performance, located in Savage, Minnesota. Their team is dedicated to get you ahead of the rest of the competition, leading the way for all in-house high-performance builds, cylinder head porting, machining, dyno tuning, and high-performance suspension. And if you're not in the Minnesota vicinity, head on over to sbcperformance.com to check out their new performance parts line, starting with their Bro Bar, fitting 2009 to 2020 baggers. This performance crash bar has sleek lines and custable end caps. Pair this up with their 100% carbon fiber lower fairing spoiler for those road glides out there from 2015 up to 2020. Give it that sporty look. I love those lower fairings. They're the sickest shit in the game. Their new parts line is the next step in taking your plain Jane glide to the next level. Check them out. Shop them at sbcperformance.com and give them a follow at SBC Performance on Instagram, SBC Performance on Facebook, and don't forget Fast Life at checkout and save yourself 10% off your entire order. My guys over there at Lexan Moto is growing fast and looking to onboard new dealers this year. Their headsets and charging solutions are ideal in any type of motorcycle shop, big or small. And Lexan has dealer plans to meet your needs. With products that make the riding experience better and more on the way, Lexan offers very competitive dealer margins, fast shipping, and great customer service. Email them at sales@lexanmotorcycle.com, and be sure to check them out on Facebook at Lexan Moto USA and Instagram at Lexan Moto. And as always, you can go to Lexan-moto.com and use offer code FASTLIFE at checkout for 15% off them badass motherfucking headsets. Get yourselves one. I want to thank my guys over at Paint Huffer Metal Flake. They're always killing the game with tons of it's late. Tons of great flakes, pearls, and other paint-related products. If you're stuck at home wanting to pick up a new hobby, trade, or whatever, check out painthuffer.com to see the vast amount of custom paint-related products and get yourself stocked up with tape and other items needed in the custom paint process. And don't forget to use FastLife13 at checkout for 10% off, and give those dudes a follow on Instagram at Paint Huffer Metal Flake. As I have said over and over again, ThunderMax is the upgrade ECM for your EFI-equipped Harley-Davidson. Whether you're getting new exhaust, cams, throttle body, you name it, a ThunderMax tuner will dial in the necessary adjustments needed to keep your HD running cherry. Another advanced product from the T-Max camp is their iRide rear suspension system that auto-adjusts height and is the best of performance and comfort in any air ride suspension situation. Check them out. To get more info on these products and to see the other vast amount of items they have for your HD, check them out at shoptmax.com and give them a follow at ThunderMaxEFI on Instagram. And last but not least, my dude John Jessup and his shop up in Stockton, California, which is the spot for in-house dyno tuning, parts, service, customizing your bike, and bike sales. TeamDreamRides.com is a great place to dump some of that cash you've been making over this little holiday break we've been having, which is offering 100 days same as cash financing on all products. All you need is a job and a bank account. Get yourself set up. Don't forget to give John and the team a follow at Dream Rides John on Instagram. That sounded weird? I'm sorry. I love John. He's my boy. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the podcast. We're about a day late, but, good reason. Did this podcast through Skype, but fortunately, with the RideBoundless guys over there. They were also running the same setup I was, so I was able to give them my files, and they were able to take both the podcasts and eliminate the Skype call and just use each one of our, our files for our voice over. It's pretty ingenious, but it should sound pretty fucking awesome. So I want to thank the guys over there. Roberto Valderrama, he is the host of that podcast. He is the main one talking here, and his boy Jaime, who has been the guy taking care of all the production type stuff, and an amazing photographer. Had a great talk, man. I really did. And I'm really excited for you guys to hear this. It's really cool. I'm trying to jazz it up for you, but it's really badass. I had a great time. Also, if you guys want to help support this podcast, you can check out our sponsors first and foremost. Those guys are really helping keep this thing rolling and going. And if you want to do a little bit more than that, you can check us out at fastlifegarage.com and become a Patreon supporter. And that really helps us continue to grow and go places, which I'm actually planning a trip right now to the Chicago area to dial in and take care of all these bad motherfuckers up there that you guys need to hear from on this podcast. So I'm trying to make this happen in the next month or so. You guys are the first to hear about this. I haven't even asked the guys there yet. So, there's your insider right there, guys. Anyway, I'm not going to drag us out anymore. Here is the RideBoundless crew. Check it out. Here we go.
Hey, guys. You ready to let the dogs out?
Fast Life Podcast.
Boom. So, what's going on? You're on episode how many now?
This will be 141.
141, and you started in 2019?
We started in January of 2018. We actually did a couple. Yeah, we did a couple in December. They were actually pretty good, but we ended up having like shitty audio. One of the computers crashed. You know what I mean?
The worst case scenario, everything.
Exactly. So, but it's definitely been a learning curve.
What did you start off with? Yetis or just computers or cell phones?
Man, I started off with like an Amazon, like cheap ass, like $40 microphone, stand, the whole kit. I just bought 4 of them. And then my brother, he was like kind of into making music. So he already had a soundboard. Right. But then at the same time, whenever I started doing it, they didn't like this Rodecaster wasn't out there. I think the Zoom H4n, which is what I've been using until I got this, was out there. And, you just kind of, I had to figure that shit out on the fly, man. Cause I'm not audio. I'm computer savvy, but not this kind of computer savvy. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, no. And luckily Rodecaster now has made it much more easier for people to tap into this, especially people that don't have the experience of messing with audio equipment or edits, etc. Yeah. And then the name, where did the name come from?
Oh, the shop, my shop's always been called the Fast Life Garage. And, just for branding purposes, instead of having 50 different names for all the shit I'm into, by keeping everything Fast Life, whether it's Fast Life Podcast, Fast Life Garage, or our Fast Life Camp Out, like everything we do, it's just easier to kind of keep the branding all together.
That's very smart.
And, and like I said, man, like we're just kind of the dudes hanging out in the garage that work on bikes and shit too. So we want to keep it as simple as possible.
So now we understand the podcast aspect of it. Tell us about the garage. I've seen all the people you've talked to. I've seen everything else, but how did your business start? Was it a passion? Did you work for another company? Did you just wrench on your own bikes and friends' bikes and then decided to open up a shop? What's the story there?
Man, it's a pretty long one, but I grew up in a paint and body shop as a kid, but I never wanted to do it. It just wasn't really the when your dad does it and your grandfather does it, you kind of want to be the one to get away from it. But I ended up falling in just because of growing up in the body shop. I ended up fell into a job when I was about 21, just wet sanding motorcycle parts for a shop that did custom paint. And doing that, I just fell in love with it because I grew up as really into art. And then paint work was always like repairing a fender or something on a car. I never looked at it like it could be art. You know what I'm saying? And so pretty much in 2004, man, I fell in love with painting again and motorcycles at the same time because that's what we were working on. So, you fast forward, 16 years now, I guess. And, I'm kind of a hustler mentality, man. So I've had a shop off and on ever since 2005. I've built bikes. I've painted tons of bikes. I've traveled all over the country with, doing bikes for all kinds of people. You know what I mean? And it's pretty crazy. I've seen a couple different trends come and go and stuff like that. So, I don't know, man. It's a really wild story. Just, thinking about it. Like, I think about all the million, put it like this. I did a podcast. The hardest thing, if you haven't done it yet, if I did a podcast just trying to objectively look at my life since I started painting and getting into bikes. And then like I had to do a 2-part series. It was like 2 hours a piece. It was like a shit show, just like super, super honesty and like kind of just showing like, a lot of stuff. But man, I don't know, man. Like it's a weird one. Like, I really don't know how to get into it again too much.
Yeah. No, it
but
becomes very difficult. And the shop, when you opened it up, did you have like rich parents and they were like, hey parents, give me some money. I'm going to open up a shop, or did you hustle your ass off and partner up and, do whatever you had to do to get there?
Man, I wish I did. And I wish I, the one time in my life I did find a partners, and had close to like $1 million investment type of business where we had money coming through. It ended up being a shit show. But no, I grew up, with, 90s and late 80s parents that were partying and doing coke and shit like that, man. So they were, in the late 90s when I was graduating high school, man, like my dad was doing a year in jail. My mom just got a felony for, possession. They weren't like junkies. Like, fortunately, my parents were good at doing drugs and getting their job done. It was just still illegal. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, my junior year in high school, man, like I had a full-time job and graduated high school still, finished school and all that shit. It just, I had a kid really early on. So that's what kept me kind of on the track. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, but no, man, I wish I have an amazing family, an amazing friends system my whole life that's always been very supportive of everything I've done, but it's never been a financial support. It's always just been a
moral,
you can crash on my pad or those kind of things,
moral support, which is pretty huge.
Plus we're here in Texas, man. And, up until the stuff in the 2000s, like the mid 2000s, all that kind of motorcycle culture was really more based out of the SoCal and the Phoenix area more than anything, So being here, there was plenty of bike work, but it was not really, you weren't really going to get famous working or painting bikes here in Texas at the time, in my opinion, unless you already had a huge business. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But then when the big wheel bagger craze hit, that shit became real popular here. And there was a lot of big shops here out of Dallas that kind of were providing parts for that industry. So we became Dallas became one of the hubs for those type of bikes. So painting those bikes and working on those bikes, I was able to make a lot of money and start to kind of own everything and really have a full shop. But it only took about 10 years of hustling, going to body shops, slinging airbrush work here and there and doing crazy shit like that to kind of get me to that point where I'd be good when the bagger thing hit. So it's kind of a weird deal.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's a path. It's a path, and it takes a while to get there. Why do you think it took so long for Texas to get into a big biker community, and it wasn't as popular as it was in California? Because I would think weather-wise, but Texas has some pretty nice weather too, right?
Yeah, our weather's not too bad. And what I really, I've thought about this quite a bit, and I think that in my deep study of trying to figure this shit out, I think that a lot of it has to do with the culture that's backing motorcycles in SoCal and just California in general. It's just it's so much more of a lifestyle. And honestly, I don't know how long lane splitting has been legal in Cali. It has. Well, you have this generation after generation of people that look at bikes for many different reasons, rather than here, it's looked at as maybe only recreational amongst the majority of people that own bikes. When you look at it there, people are driving to work every day on their bike. Like their bike is much more an extension of their daily routine than it is here. Therefore, I think people spend more money on their bikes. They want their bikes to be nicer. They want it to be more of everything because they spend so much more time on it, and there's no real off season. You got like a couple weeks of rain once a year.
Yeah, we only have 11 months of riding weather.
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, but bikes, but we see all kinds of different bikes. I mean, so not everybody spends it. I think I see more people just riding just to ride. And I think I see more people that buy a bike because it's a necessity, for transportation, the cost of living out here, etc. Than real people. I mean,
I think the commuters have shittier bikes.
Yeah, the commuters, the commuters definitely have shittier bikes. They're not all.
They're not
nice
taking
and
care
dandy.
of them and stuff like that. I think the guys that really likes their bikes are the ones that are upgrading constantly and stuff.
Well, it's not only that, but
As in Robert.
you know better than anybody else. It costs money to buy a decent bike and start working on it.
Paint job.
Doing a paint job, bars, cables, pipes, tires, rims, swing arm, chassis, changing into a chain drive, all those things. And you spend money, it costs. All of a sudden, that the cheapest part of, upgrading a bike is the bike. Then after that, I seen people buy a $15,000 Dyna or $12,000 Dyna, and they'll spend $20,000 customizing it. Which we all have seen.
Well, another thing that also comes when you guys, like I would say, because of lane splitting and people are commuting, you have more people that need maintenance work and need things like that. So there's much more shops spread across that, SoCal, coastline, basically
all of California. Yeah.
So, and I mean that for me, I started flying up to NorCal once a month for, pretty much 2015, 2016. And pretty much those 2 years just painting bikes because there's so many people that are putting stupid money in it compared to what here, where like there's maybe 5 or 6 shops in the North Texas area that are, not doing bikes. Yeah. I'm sure there's more, but just on my radar, right now, there's not as many, but hell, I got probably, if you go to Phoenix, even Phoenix is different. Like, I think a lot of people from California go to Phoenix so they can still have that California down the street kind of vibe, but get away from a little bit of other stuff. But and then you got MMI there, and there's a shop every other intersection on Cave Creek, and it's just insane how much more industry there is in the SoCal, specifically SoCal and Arizona area, in that little, pocket of desert, basically, and it's just not here.
Yeah. What do the people from Texas think of bikers? They hate them. They like them. They don't give a fuck about them.
We like to call them like the hell yeah brother guys. You know what I mean?
Oh, they support it.
They're kind of like they like people. Motorcycling is pretty big in Texas. Like it's still big. And there's lots of it. We have, definitely we have clubs out here. We have quite a few big rallies that are more nationally known rallies that take place within the state lines. It's just kind of like, I don't know. What's really weird is I think that we get in these little echo chambers where we look at the type of bikes that we like, especially with social media now. We start looking at like a Dyna or a Vikla Softail or something like that, and we get sucked into this culture, and then we look at our outside, like what's outside now, and it doesn't look like it looks like on Instagram.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Nothing looks like
when
Instagram.
Exactly. So I think that for some of us that are into bikes that aren't as popular on this side of the country, we kind of feel that way when realistically, they're an average bike night at a Harley dealership can have hundreds, if not a couple of thousand bikes attending. It just might be not really our customer base or our demographic of people that we hang out with, So
yeah, no,
it's kind of
weird. The reason I was asking that is because, in California, it's tricky. It's like 50-50 people. When you're passing them, they don't give a fuck. They just let you pass, especially when you're in a Harley, they hear you. People just move the fuck out of the way. There's no problems.
Yeah.
But when I was in Arizona a few times, and maybe I'm just talking about just those times, but I don't know anything other than those moments. When I would try to split lanes, like one time I was riding back with a buddy of mine, and we rode all day through Vegas, and then we had to get back to LA. Well, it started raining, and leaving Vegas on a Sunday to LA is fucked up. I mean, you're talking about in a car, the average is probably 6 hours. All right.
Yeah.
So it started pouring, and I kind of like, yo, hey, you down to split lanes? He's like, yeah, I'm down to split lanes. So we were on ultras, and I started splitting lanes. And all of a sudden, every time I look back, my guy was so back. Dieter from Eagle Riders, he was so far back that I had to stop, because cars were cutting him off. As soon as I would pass in Nevada, cars would get in the way. They would block you because they know it's against the law. There's no lane splitting. And they did this the whole way, until we got to the California border, the state border. And I traumatized me. I was like, this is fucked up. I would never experience this in California. I wonder if other states are like that.
Oh, they most definitely are. I mean, Texas, it's like, nobody wants you to cut in line, man. And it's, I've heard someone told me this, like
almost like that's what it felt like.
Someone told me this a while back, and it was a good kind of analogy, and I'm probably going to murder it right now, but it was something to the effect of like every other condition. The only time motorcycling is better to be on is like on a perfect sunny day, right? When it's raining, when it's traffic, when it's cold, when it's blazing hot, cars are always in a better situation, right? But the only thing that we can do that they can't is we can slip through.
Right.
And they don't want to let that happen. You know what I mean? And even if like Texas did legalize lane splitting, it would take a couple of years for it to really resonate and like ingrain into the people that live here to allow it to happen. Most people don't care. To be honest with you, you can go by a lot of people, but you're going to catch a redneck here sooner or later that ain't into that shit, or some soccer mom that's just had it up to here.
Yeah, having a bad day, and not today.
Exactly.
I'm gonna kill somebody today.
Yeah, that's a divider. I don't know. I don't know what's worse, not being able to split lanes, or not being able to conceal a gun. Because like we cannot conceal a gun no matter what in fucking California.
Yeah.
And that bothers me. But I don't know. What do you think worse?
Well, it would definitely bother me now with the state of things, in the country with, all the shit going on. I mean, you're in this very, very populated place, especially within the LA there, that if shit hit the fan and people couldn't eat and couldn't provide, shit's going to get real. Yeah. And, all the people out there that have banned guns, blamed every problem on guns. They're not going to be able to, they're going to be looking for cops that can't handle that.
Absolutely.
That many people.
None. Even if National Guard comes right now, that's a big sign that anarchy is going to happen. And there's not enough to stop all the bums, all the crimes, all the neighbors. The crazy part is I was just reading a study. They said 9 meals. We're 9 meals away from anarchy. If somebody doesn't eat for 3 days, their next nine meals, that's it. It's a war zone. And you're going to have to protect yourself. And that's a huge problem. So, LA's what, 15 million or something?
I don't know, man.
Something.
That was like close to 20, I think.
Yeah.
Or like the whole like county or the whole like
the whole
area
county
could be.
Yeah. I'm going to stick.
So I heard this.
We'll look it up.
I heard this thing, and I don't have a reference, and I don't know if it's military and police, or if it's just like people in like FBI, SWAT, all that type of shit, police force. But it's something like 5,000 citizens per one person of authority in America. You know what I mean?
America. That means it's so much more worse than LA.
Yeah, pretty much.
So
you'd have to send pretty much most.
Statistic. That's an interesting statistic.
Yeah, and I can't remember if that's military included or if that's just like FBI to police force down. You know what I mean?
It's
like
probably
that
all.
kind of.
I mean, I'm sure it's an easy lookup. If you look at how many people are enrolled in the military, how many law enforcement officers do we have? I'm sure. I mean, LA, we drive up and down the 405, one of the busiest freeways, and I see 2-3 police officers.
If you go long, sometimes from here to my house, there's not one.
Yeah, maybe you'll see one, and you're talking a distance of 25 miles in LA. In LA, miles don't mean nothing. 25, in Texas, anywhere outside of LA, 25 miles is 25 minutes.
Yeah,
here,
for sure.
25 miles is about an hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes. So in an hour and a half, you can drive with thousands of cars next to you and not see one police officer. It's concerning.
Yeah. So my wife, she's from Santa Clarita up there.
Yeah.
And then her aunt that we visit 2 or 3 times a year lives right there in Venice off of Lincoln there. So we're out there quite a bit. And it is insane how much people and how much city, like I tell people from Texas, like if you start in Ventura and you just head east, by the time you get to Indo, that's like from Dallas past Austin, you know, it's quite a ways. And if you think about it, most of that is suburb and city,
right?
From that point to that point, that's insane. That's like so much fucking people. And that's just in one straight line.
In one straight line. Yes. So many people.
So it's pretty, you know, you got a special place there, man. Like if it wasn't special, like nobody would be there.
Well, what makes it special, I think is you're 2 to 3 hours away from anything. If you want mountains, you have mountains. If you want desert, there's desert. If you want beach, there's beach. We were riding not too long ago, and
3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago, snow.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, straight snow on top of the mountains. There's snow next to us. We had like just one light jacket.
Sleeve, yeah.
Well, luckily somebody brought his heated vest, but the rest of us, we didn't know, you know, so we got out there and we're freezing our asses off, but it was so nice. And it's like, wow, like there's snow right now. And
which pass did you go on?
We went on Angeles Crest all the way. Yeah.
Oh, okay. That was
all
it
the way
the 2
out
or
to
something
when
like
it crosses to Azusa. That was like full with snow.
Full on,
nice.
Full snow. Actually, they were there yesterday.
Yeah, I was there yesterday, and it was completely empty of snow. It was like
there was
85 degrees.
85 degrees, but you know that's the crazy part. And again, if you want ocean, if you want to go to Coney Island, Sandy, and then everything's so different. You know, there was a law they wanted to pass that, you know, I never saw it or do anything, but they were talking about breaking up California into like 7 different states. And
they're different though.
What's that?
I spent a lot of time in NorCal, man, and those cats up there, you know, the guys in the Bay Area versus the guys out towards like Stockton and Sacramento are even different in a sense.
And the reason they were doing that state is because just the laws, you know, like San Diego's got a border problem. LA's got a Los Angeles problem. You know, the Central Coast has they produce, I think they said 70% of the produce of the United States. Yeah. So we had those droughts. Sacramento has their own issues, you know, in Stockton. San Francisco obviously wants to advance on technology, self-driving buses, self-driving this. And
Priuses.
I fucking hate Priuses. And I'm sorry, every time I lose my mind. I can't even anyways. So they wanted to separate that, and it was just interesting because there was enough valid points where it kind of makes sense, but then it's just kind of ridiculous right now. But anyways,
it's really strange, man. Because like whenever I started going to NorCal, when the big drought was taken, and I think Shasta Lake, I think it is up north, was like damn near empty. Yeah. You know, and I guess that's a big water source for a lot of the people that, you know, with the aqueduct that comes all the way down the Central
it was like
Valley.
5 years. It was like 4 or 5 years, if not longer.
It's ridiculous. Dude, you drive up the 5 or the 99, man. You just saw all those farmers just ready to fucking riot, you know, ready to go to war for water, man. It's crazy. But then, you know, I guess it's been quite wet there the last couple of years, so I guess that's a good thing.
Yeah, I was
remember they were putting the plastic.
What's that?
They were putting the plastic balls in the water to do something up there or some shit. Like they were dumping all these plastic things in the lake up there up north to do something.
Yeah,
some kind of experiment.
I forgot what that was about, but I remember hearing something about that.
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
Yeah, no.
So what got you into podcasting though? Like you guys, like I've heard some of the podcasts I've been trying to binge. We've had a wild party weekend going on, so I haven't really had much time to sit down and focus on anything. But what got you guys wanting to start doing this podcast stuff?
This is something I keep saying 2012, but I think it was more like 2013. I wanted to launch a podcast. The original idea was the Man Cave Raw, you know, and then just have, you know, me and then a good buddy of mine, and just kind of have drinks and have that regular conversation. Like right now, this is, you know, the RideBoundless where we talk about bikes, and the conversations we're going to have are based on conversations we would have if we met, you know, at an event. That one was going to be the same thing, but it was just going to be kind of like nightlife or, you know, what's going on in LA or just, you know, interesting people. Stuff. Yeah, more generic, not so much of a niche. And you know, I that's where I want to give you credit. I mean, you had the idea and you did it, you know, with shitty equipment or no shitty equipment. Yeah. I got as far as, you know, making the set and, you know, coming up with the idea, and, you know, already a few guests that I wanted to start with, but I never executed. Unfortunately, never executed. So then I launched the RideBoundless, And at first it was just like parts, motorcycle parts online. And, then I did a couple t-shirts, and then I launched a cleaning product, and now the product's called Ride Clean, but originally it was called RideBoundless. And then I felt, again, that's where I got to give you credit again. You kept everything with the same name. You kept your garage, your podcast, your events, your everything, which is genius. I complicated it, started changing names on everything. So then the cleaning, I changed it to Ride Clean. I had the RideBoundless name. I trademarked the logos, did everything else. And then I was having a casual conversation about this podcast that I wanted to do, and we never did. And then Hyman and then our good friend Mark, we were sitting in the garage. I had the Yeti mic, and Mark kind of said, "Hey, why don't you start your podcast?" And then I was like, "You guys want to do a podcast?" And Hyman was like, "Fuck it, I don't care." Like zero fucks given. And we just started recording. I think the first one was what?
Like 2 months ago, I think.
Yeah, 2 months ago. But how long was it?
Almost 3 months ago.
Yeah, but how long?
I think it was like
45.
Yeah, 35 minutes, 40 minutes.
Something short, and it started circulating, and kind of people wanted more, and then I was thinking like this is going to be difficult. Like that was easy, but it's kind of difficult. I'm already juggling too much shit in my own life. Then Jaime approached me and he says, "Hey, I like the direction, or I like what happened. Why don't we collaborate and start doing this?" And we collaborated. Yeah.
And we started recording and getting new guests, and with through connections that we have that I've always wanted to reach out and actually get to meet. We've been offering them just to meet up through the podcast, through one episode like this, and we've been seeing your stuff. The way I see your stuff, that you might even be offended, bro. Is to me your Instagram is more like a tattoo artist Instagram, and I like to see the shit that you come up with. When you
very creative.
Yeah, when you post a helmet, and I see the portraits that you do on the helmets, or that you
insane.
Guys. It's incredible, and I see it more like the revolution that the tattoo artists have had after Instagram sensation. That they've been exploded because they're able to show their work and reach to a new audience, and all around the world. Same with your helmets, man. I see it, and it's a piece of art, each of them.
I appreciate that. One of the things that helped me do this is, and which is actually doing exactly the opposite, as I want to get into more video type stuff, like doing like a YouTube channel that's not related to the podcast, is on the YouTube channel. I'm trying way too fucking hard. I'm buying shit. I'm just buying and buying. I'm never doing, because I've put in this video on a pedestal that I don't really have time to do. I mean, so by keeping the podcast as simple as possible and just trying to get a good, clean audio, but then get it out and just get them out, it makes it a lot easier to get in the motion of doing it. And then it's kind of a competitive thing too, or not competitive, but a continual thing that I cringe listening to myself talk on the podcast. Like, I don't like it.
Nobody does.
I don't listen. I don't listen to them anymore unless there was something very compelling that was talked about, probably from the guest, that I needed to recall for something that's coming up or something like that. But like, you can get in your head real quick with these things, but I don't know, man. I felt like I've grown so much over the last almost 2.5 years now doing this.
That's huge. That's just a big accomplishment.
Just having these conversations with people, and like picking their brain and kind of having their undivided attention, dude. Like, it's crazy how much, you can, I feel like the real conversations, not that this isn't real, but like the real gritty shit, it's either going to happen now, or it's going to, like, about an hour and a half in, once everybody's comfortable, then shit just starts flowing out and you start getting like the real conversation. So, but then again, sometimes I've had podcasts that I've let drawn on for so long that I was like, man, I probably should have cut that off about an hour and a half ago, but I was fishing for another great conversation to talk about.
Yeah. Robert mentioned it in one of the latest episodes. When was the last time, if it wasn't for the podcast, that you can sit with a stranger for an hour and a half and talk about your life
and just get to know them? There is no.
Well, yeah. And what's crazy? I was actually talking to a buddy about this. One of the most exhilarating experiences as a human is getting to meet someone new and getting to find out about each other, whether it's a chick or a friend. You know what I mean? It's like I feel like an overlooked thing that we as people don't really value as much. So when I get to have a podcast or somebody or have a conversation with them, you know, it's pretty amazing to sit there and meet this person, even if you've never, like I've never, other than the conversation I had with you the other day, like I haven't really had much interaction with you guys, but listening to your podcast over the weekend has raised a lot of like, oh, that's cool. Like, how'd you get into it? What was the catalyst or the fuel for the fire for you guys? You know what I mean? So that's kind of like the good thing about conversations, man, is they can really just open your head and eyes.
Yeah. And that's what happens. I think there's too many people that I've known and, you know, we ride together, you know, every weekend or, you know, even during the week, we meet up, we go to events, but you don't know anybody until you really have this moment of what's going on in your life. You know, episode number 8, Michael Beach.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I listened to that one. Liked it.
Yeah. Michael Beach,
9,
you know,
9.
He what's that?
9.
Number 9. Yeah. So Michael Beach, you know, he's actor, Sons of Anarchy, blah, blah, blah. We used to ride together back in the days. And then I lost contact with him. And now, you know, when I ran into him, I had the opportunity to catch up and really catch up. And I was learning stuff from him that I never even knew, you know, we ate and gone to places, you know, hundreds of times. I didn't know he didn't eat beef and, you know, pork. I was like, what? Like, I never even noticed, you know, but.
Yeah, I forgot how jacked he was, man. I went back after I listened to that podcast and I was already following his Instagram page and stuff, but I went back and checked it out. I was like, yeah, dude's fucking, you know, he didn't look old as shit. I guess it's true. Black don't crack.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Eddie Murphy said it
really
better.
good.
Money don't crack.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, money don't crack for sure. But he looks great. He's almost 60 years old. He'll fuck up most people that I know.
Exactly. The only thing I would say is a downside to podcasting conversations is like you start to look at every conversation of fuck, man, I should have had the mics out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Almost like it becomes like a different, you know, some conversations they need to just be private. Even, not that there's something said that shouldn't be put out there, but it's an extra layer of real when there's no microphones and there's no agenda or there's no gain from it. It's just pure information being shared to each other. But like I said, in doing podcasts, you start to kind of look at every interaction and conversation like, fuck, man, I should have had the mics on. This would have been a good thing to share to my audience, blah, blah, blah. And then I feel a little less genuine sometimes for that kind of thought process. So I try to check that a little bit, but you know, it's just part of it. We're always looking to gain.
Have you done any mobile podcasts, like where you take your equipment and you go on an adventure or you know?
Yeah. I mean, that? Trust me, man, to get this podcast going, the amount of times I've ridden across country to California, the amount of times I've flown places, I've ridden to Indianapolis and had my bike stolen while I was there doing a podcast.
Shit.
You know,
what episode was that?
It was a Horsepower Inc.
An expensive one.
You can actually
expensive one.
You can get on there and hear the bike start in the end of the podcast.
Really?
In the parking lot. Yeah, man, I've always been a traveler on motorcycles, so that's why. And because of my work in the industry, I've always had an in with quite a few companies, builders, painters, fabricators, you know, product brands and things like that. So I just combined the riding with the podcast, and I would just take the little Zoom handy recorder and a couple lavalier mics and just, you know, have at it. And I mean, the quality's not as good, but, until I built this studio that I'm actually in right now, it was, I felt like I had to grind like that. I had to go out there and I had to meet people, you know, 90% of the way, a lot of times, just to show the world my commitment and the seriousness I have for this stuff. You know what I mean? But it's also selfish because I love fucking riding across country. So I get to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. So, you know.
Yeah. I mean, soon, obviously, because of the current situation, we were planning on a few trips to take the equipment. We just purchased the Zoom and some other equipment, and we wanted to meet. We have some people to meet up in Arizona, and you know, we planned the whole trail, but that's on hold right now for about 2 months.
Yeah, it's all good.
About 2 months,
something like that. But I can't wait. You know, I already told my girl, like, you know, I'm gonna be gone, work. You know, the dream, the future.
It's work.
You have to do it.
It's work.
Work.
Yeah. No, I mean, I've done Phoenix a couple times, man. I've ridden out there a couple times. I've flown out there like twice now to do podcasts. And you're kind of fortunate too, because where you're at, like you have
everybody's here.
The word is not, yeah, you have a lot of shit close. And so, but what we had to do with ours to continue growth for those times we couldn't go out there is I had to take more of the Joe Rogan platform, where I had to make some of my guests feel like they're an extension, like more of a host as well. You know what I mean? So by bringing some of my closer friends on that I have great conversations with often, some of my audiences felt they found a connection to that person. So they really like when that one guy comes on.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Who might not be a big, might not be a big known person. It's, it just helps me kind of, shed light on my friends who I find amazing. But at the same time, it helps me continue to put out content. Originally it was always to try to put out at least 4 episodes a month, which wouldn't be hard in a lot of ways, but it's fucking hard.
It's very difficult.
Yeah, it's really difficult. I mean, not to mention your day-to-day obligations, and then,
family,
and find the right guest that can sit for 2 hours on the phone.
Well, not only that, and them showing up. There was a moment that Jaime looked at me. He goes, "Robert, we're 2 days away from failing, producing a podcast every week, once a week."
Yeah.
Because a part of me was like, we should do 5 a week, let's do it.
Yeah.
But it's like at 1 a week, it's difficult, to get the people.
I've done
really
that error before with photography, and I put myself the challenge of, in the portraits, I have a bunch of Instagrams, right? One of them is just fashion portraits. And I've done that before. I've put myself the challenge of posting 1 amazing picture a day. And it's impossible, because you can only maintain it so far, because at some point you have to shoot every day 1 person and produce 1 amazing shot. And it's practically impossible while you have a full-time job. So I was always telling Robert that this is an hour of conversation with somebody, hopefully a stranger. So it's really hard to maintain the speed, of getting.
I think that from the outside looking in, before even listening to your guys' podcast, I think the marketing and the way you're using photography, which I'm a huge photography nerd myself. I'm not a photographer professionally, but I dabble in the arts. You know what I mean? So the way that you guys have marketed your stuff, it's super clean. It's super professional. So one of the things is like, I wasn't really super clean and professional. I just knew people from working in the industry for so long. So like you knew Michael Beach, it was easier for you to get that introduction and get him on the podcast, as opposed to me. I don't know him and I don't have a connection, and I'm going to have to go into his DMs in hopes that he actually opens it and reads it and takes it seriously. Yeah. But as our podcast has grown and more larger name people in the industry have done it, it's much easier to maybe get someone on. And if they kind of hesitate, then I can drop off 1 or 2 names that I know that they've done it. So they're definitely going to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Those are the building blocks of getting this successful.
Exactly.
What was your favorite? But what's your favorite episode that you've done? And why?
Man, it's really hard to say what the favorite one is, because I was just talking with a buddy today, man. As a podcast listener myself, I go through phases of what I want to hear, what type of shit I want to hear. Sometimes I want to hear, a motivating story, and sometimes I want to laugh my ass off. You know what I mean? So with that being said, like, it's really hard to say some of my best. I think that, man, that's a really tough question, dude. Cause I have a lot of different shit that I love for different reasons. I would say one of my favorites was probably, we did a trip last year. We rode from Dallas to San Francisco and then down for Born Free and home. And I usually do that once a year. And I don't try to take new people, but I do it every year. So sometimes the same dudes come, sometimes it's new folks, but this is the first time we did it with a podcast. And I remember we're sitting in Silk, Colorado, on the edge of the Colorado River, camping. And we just pulled that Zoom out and we put a whole bunch of the lavalier mics on. We put our helmets in front of us and lifted the visor up and then clipped the lavaliers on the visor. That way we're in our shirts and making all that kind of noise and shit. And we just talked, and the quality was nowhere near as good as what you would expect, but I felt like the audience loved it because they felt like they were sitting by the river with us in a campfire, listening to us talk about the first 3 days or 2 days of our trip from Dallas to, basically the western side of Colorado. And those kind of things are great. And that's one thing that we've built with our podcast since then is like this huge amount of people that want to come out and ride and come experience the type of shit that I passionately talk about. I love like jumping on a bike and going across country and camping and staying at hotels in the cool places and camping in the cool places and doing that with dudes, as gay as that sounds. You know what I mean?
No, it's what we used to do. It's how we traveled before, 100 years ago, 500 years ago. That's that.
I think it is a little bit primal.
Yeah, that's where the bonding was. That's you get escape. You almost have no responsibilities other than just surviving.
You don't. When you're on a road trip across the country, man, and that today I'm riding my bike and I'm going to go to this town, this town, this town. When you ride a bike in general, you're already way more aware of everything going on, or at least most of us are that don't wreck all the time. Right. We're very connected to what's taking place in front of us. And when you go through these small towns in the middle of nowhere, man, like you just kind of peek into this world that's not like the big city that we're kind of all from.
It's a trip.
And it's a trip, man. It's like it's very humbling. It's very inspiring. And, it's like it's like a good reset for myself every year. So I feel like taking those kind of trips and like, not because I pity these people in any kind of way. I think that they're living an amazing life that I wish I had the balls to do,
That's what it is. You got to have the balls to do it. And the fucked up part is we're so attached to everything we have. We're so attached to our fucking local bars, to our bikes, to our cars. We would rather suffer and complicate our life, but have our attachments than, living a simple fucking life and less worries and less stress and not caring like that. You gotta have balls. It's as weird as it sounds.
Yeah. Most of the dudes that go on the trips with me, man, like it does flip a switch in them where they really crave that real freedom. I hate to sound, fucking, inspirational poster in a motorcycle shop.
Guys, everybody, but let's write this down. We're gonna make new posters. What is it?
It's really like that. The freedom. I think riding motorcycles is freedom in a lot of ways, right?
Absolutely.
But when you're leaving and you're not coming home that day, it's a different kind of freedom. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
You're just going. You're going here. It truly is like the most freest I've ever felt. You know what I mean? And
it crosses my mind a lot of times, man. When I'm riding somewhere at night. For example, I have to ride later today from here to my house, and I get on the bike, and I always think, is this the day when I turn off my phone and disappear for 3 days?
You've said that too many times,
right?
It's kind of concerning.
It is concerning.
Yeah, he literally will be like, I think this is the time. I'm gonna. Bye.
Yeah.
Like,
I got it.
I really want to do it once.
So I do have a weird, like on the same topic, a question for you guys. So to me, I get to fantasize about coming to places like where you guys live and soak it up for a day or two or a week or however long.
We're looking for go ahead. I'm sorry, but just to let you know, we're trying to get the fuck out of here any moment, bro. We're like, where? Let's go. I don't care. Let's just go.
Yeah. That's what I was wondering. Like when you're in Cali and you have basically, at least 5 of the top 10 rides in America within a day's ride from you guys, like what's their desire? Where is there a desire to go to the Midwest where it's flat and there's fields 100%. Everywhere? I mean, like
absolutely camping, get out of here.
Yeah. Anything different.
That's the experience. It's the experience of getting out there and coming back. That's what people look forward to. The stuff that we have around here, like the freedom that I experience, and I know this might sound weird, but the experience that I love, that I experience a lot in Los Angeles is when you get in a fucking car, there is so much traffic. It's unbearable how bad traffic is that you feel trapped. And actually you are trapped because there's moments, there's no exit coming up, and you're there for 2 more miles, and it's saying on the GPS that 2 more miles is going to be 15, 20 minutes. And I just regret. I'm like, why the fuck am I driving the truck today? And when you have a bike, like nothing's stopping you. You're splitting lanes. You're getting through all. The cops stop the road. Okay, cool. I'll get to the front of everybody. And once it opens up, I'm the first one out. I don't have to wait for stop. It's weird. Like you could just get through anything, and that's one freedom. Mm-hmm. But to get out of LA as a whole, like go to Palm Springs, go to the desert, go to Arizona, go to Nevada. I mean, it's so freeing, especially when you get to Arizona and there's no helmet laws. You could rip that off. Like that's still weird here, where you get accustomed to wearing helmets. But
we started, we're big on helmets here as well nowadays. But I would trade the helmet law. No, you can ride without a helmet here. But I would trade that for lane splitting any day.
Any day.
You know what I mean?
No, any day.
Any day.
That's fuck, man. No lane splitting. That's why I'm saying that concealed carry and no lane splitting. I don't know which one I'd choose, but it would have to be lane splitting, I guess. I do know. I remember when they first we have open carry here, kind of like Arizona does. And I remember when they first made that legal, I swear it was so funny watching everybody and their mom just like put pistols on their hip like they're from the Wild West and shit. And that only lasted for a couple of weeks before people realized it was stupid to have your gun just hanging on the outside. So you don't want people to know you have a gun on you. You know, the purpose.
Yeah. Yeah. So but I mean, I don't know, man. Like I think it's always going to be, people here in Texas, even though, we're very, we're very red state, you know what I mean? And we're very conservative as fuck, but we still like mountains and oceans and good weather too. So we all fantasize about being in California, just not without so much government,
right?
Overlord on you.
Right. No. And there's, and obviously I'm talking about the populated cities like Los Angeles is it could be a nightmare riding. There is times that it is a nightmare riding, but fuck, when you go to Carmel or when you go to Monterey or when you Santa Cruz or San Diego, when you go anywhere outside of, the city, there's unlimited rides. Right now, Jaime just found Gorman. I wasn't even familiar with all the Gorman tracks. And that's when you go up the 5 to the Grapevine. And on top, there's like a national park that you pay $5 to get into. And there's 150, 180 miles of dirt bike riding and go-karts and ATVs. There's a forest by a river. There's waterfalls. You could spend, 5 days there, and it's an amazing experience. It's definitely an amazing experience.
Yeah, I think for me, I just build my GPS, and everything that is in that GPS doesn't give me freedom. Because even when we ride on Sundays, I have memorized the canyons. So as long as I'm inside of those canyons, I don't feel the freedom. When I go to a new place, I'm like, oh shit, now I feel better. It's kind of like a reset of what I know. So yeah, when I did I did a trip with Rio to San Francisco, going up PCH. Once I pass the area that we always go to, I start feeling, like the freedom start kicking on.
Yeah,
like once you're out of Santa Barbara.
Yeah, you're like, oh shit, I don't know these turns or look at this cliff that I would have never look at if I'm in my area, And
it's so adventurous because, from LA to San Francisco, if you take the 5, you could do it in 5-6 hours, 80, 90 miles an hour, very easy. Stop once and get a pack of smokes, Coke, whatever. But if you go PCH all the way up,
it's like 12 hours.
It's 8-9 hours.
11 easily.
Yeah, easily it's 8-9 hours, and then you have to start early, early in the morning because, well, depending on, if it gets darker sooner than later, but you want to make sure you have daylight the whole way. Cause then there's points where it's like really dark at night, which is,
and I got a great story for you. Nothing. It's crazy.
What is it?
So I the first time I did my California ride and we came out there, we stayed in Chatsworth at my wife's dad's house, just a bunch of bikers. He's a biker as well. He has a Street Glide CVO. And so we were hanging out there and then I wanted to go see her aunt in Venice. So we went down to Venice, bright and early the morning that we were going to ride all the way to we were going to ride to Livermore, but we were going to take PCH all the way to Monterey and then cut over through San Jose into like the Dublin, Livermore area.
Yeah, I know exactly what
and, so we ended up I knew that it was going to be a full day's riding, but starting in Venice Beach and riding the coast all the way was the worst idea ever. I should have just like hit the 101, then like jumped over the Santa Monica Mountains, and then just, no, we rode Santa Monica, Ventura, all the way around that shit. And so there's two things that it was both the best trip I ever had on PCH and the worst trip. The best trip, because before we even got to Big Sur, I saw the most amazing sunset over that ocean, So for that like hour as that sun's going down, I still fantasize about those visuals that I had and the vibe of me and my boys stopping and just kind of soaking in that thing. But then as soon as that sun was gone, that place is fucking dark, and dude. Cold. There is nothing, man. Like we froze our asses off. And mind you, this was in April, which makes up a whole nother set of problems that we face going through, New Mexico and West Texas. But, we didn't end up getting there late, but, I've told that story so many times and it means a lot more to me than the other 5 times I've ridden that road. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no.
The last time we rode it last year, most of the dudes that came here from Texas were really, really anticipating that trip. And they ended up not liking it because of how many tourist buses and cars and the constructions that's on there to fix the rock slides they've had for the last couple of years. So I knew it was going to be that way. So when I brought those dudes to San Francisco, I took them up to Bodega Bay and then rode them down Bodega Bay down into San Francisco for a kind of the same experience of riding on the cliffs and the coast, but much less traveled than the Monterey to San Luis Obispo section.
Yeah. No,
and they ended up liking that. Yeah, they ended up liking that one much more just because we had the freedom to really put our Olin suspension and shit like that to the test finally in a curvy environment.
Well, what'd you think? What'd you think
man,
of the suspension upgrade?
Dude, I've ridden quite a few things, but unfortunately also in my testimony, I've only been riding aggressively since I've had Olin. So when I had Legends on my last Dyna, I had Works on my last FXR. I've had quite a few different, but I just never was really trying to push the bike. I was just more or less trying to have the cool guy shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
just
the show bike.
That way it wasn't stock. But this last year running the bagger, I did the full Olin's front and rear, but only the drop ins in the front. I'm not a fan of the inverted front ends, and not that they don't probably work amazing, but I just ain't got that kind of dough to put on into a bike, and I definitely can't ride. I've ridden bikes with the inverted front ends, but most people, I think that the Olin's rear shocks with the Nix 22 drop ins in the front is probably the most cost effective, high performance thing you can do to your bike. Those night and day for me, man. We were coming from one of the best rips on my trip last year. We were coming down from South Lake Tahoe to Sacramento. And there's just like long, winding, just sweeping high speed corners, not really corners, just curves coming into Sacramento. Man, I had never felt like my suspension was so fucking dialed in my life. We were in Colorado and it was bouncing all over the place, but I found out that I had my front tire started to cup. And so while we were in Reno, a homie shop of mine, he put a new tire on my shit, and night and day difference from everything. It just felt like I was riding on rails, dude.
What year bike was it that you were riding at the time?
I got a 2019 Road Glide.
Nice.
So, so I picked it up in 2018, right after they released the new models.
And that changed everything.
And
That changed the whole ride, the whole feel.
Oh yeah, man.
You got to text me or email me what you got exactly, because I'm looking for my Street Glide. Like right now, I'm so dissatisfied of how the suspension rides right now.
What do you have?
2020. I just picked up a 2020 stock. I traded the FX DLS. Got that. I mean, I've done a few blacked out parts. Crash bar and changed crash bar. Just the simple shit. But now I got to add a pipe and I got to add suspension. And then we also just picked up the 2020 BMWs. When I ride the GSA and I ride my Street Glide, get the fuck out of here. Especially, the Street Glide's lower. It's got the 12-inch shock. It bottoms out on fucking everything. I mean, it doesn't matter where I go. I'm bottoming out everywhere. And I'm sure you've noticed California has terrible roads. I mean, we have potholes everywhere.
Yeah, the Pasadena freeway, I'm good with that one. That's the bumpiest highway I've ever ridden on. Just like you just boop.
Yeah, 405 is it is so uncomfortable. I sometimes I have to like, you know, I go from 80, 85 miles an hour. When I hit this 2-3 mile stretch, I drop down to like 50 because I can't.
Damn.
But on the GSA, there's no problem whatsoever.
Yeah. So, man, when I was buying that Road Glide, I sat there at the dealership, at the Harley dealership and the BMW dealership, because I've been jonesing for an adventure bike forever, but I'm pretty fucking short. So, you know, a GS 1200 adventure bike is a huge motherfucker for me.
How tall are you?
You know what I mean? I'm 5'7", but all fucking torso.
Yeah. All torso. Yeah.
Yeah. Or 5'9". Sorry, I'm 5'9". I need those 2 inches. But so I can get on the bike on the adventure 1200, but it's just not comfortable. And then the other aspect is I'm not quite in my life financially stable enough to just buy a bike simply for pleasure. It has to also kind of
but it says the guy
work for business.
Buys a bike and puts a fucking $5,000 paint job and, you know, $2,000-$3,000 suspension and fucking $3,000 wheels and tires. You know,
It's marketing, right?
it's marketing.
It's marketing. It is. And I get to write that shit off. But the thing is that I sell paint mainly,
Yeah.
and there's not a lot of people in the adventure bike market that's going to look for paint on the bike.
I was
So
going to
it
ask,
would
have you
purely
ever seen any great paint jobs or anything on a GSA?
No. Well, the thing is that it's more off-road based, and a lot of like dirt bikes and those adventure bikes have parts that are very flexible and bendable. So a lot of times the parts are actually made in the color that they're actually, you know, the plastic, right? And that's because if you drop it and you get, you know, bend a fender, it's not going to crack the paint off, because they have like gimmick paint out there. They'll say it'll flex like crazy. I don't know. I've been in the paint industry a long time, and everything's great for the first couple of months, but then it eventually will crack off, you know? So someone's going to drop, you know, on a bike of that size, 5, 6, 7, 8 grand on a paint job. And then most people that ride adventure bikes drop them because they're riding them off road. They're going through sand and other things like that are going to, you know,
they're challenging.
Even the best of us.
I tell everyone, if you go off road, most likely you're dropping your bike. It's like going snowboarding and not fall. It's just ridiculous. It's unrealistic.
It's super unrealistic.
Yeah. And the other main reason, I've said this many times on my podcast, the reason I want an adventure bike is not so much to do off road. I want to travel internationally, like down to Argentina, things like that. So I want a bike that's capable of any road condition that I have to go down. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like I'm not that good on the dirt. I didn't grow up riding dirt bikes, so I don't really have this wanderlust for off-road riding. Now, if for me to get to point A to point B requires me to go off-road, go through a river, ride on the side of this cliff, then I'll do what I got to do. But you know,
but I don't really want to.
Performance
there helps a lot. Like today, I was just riding, and I was riding the GSA, and I stopped. I was in Huntington Park, and I stopped at a light, and I was standing, and my bike was on a puddle of oil. Like, and I didn't even click in my fucking head. My foot kind of slipped, and I was like, okay, got my grip, I'm good. The light turns green, I accelerate, my whole fucking back tire, my bike just was moving. I was like, what the fuck? And lucky enough, you know, it has the traction control, and the bike was able to correct itself. And, you know, the brakes, you know, I hit the front brake, it was able to, you know, separate. Because what happens is on the 1250s now, when you hit the back brake's back brake. But when you hit the front brake, it controls how much back and how much front. So if it wasn't for that proportion, I was on my streak light there, I think I would have dropped the bike. I really think I would have dropped the bike. But when you go off road or when you take these trips to South America, you know, all those terrains, it's ready for that. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah. And you know, and also like if I was to take a road glide down there, all candy painted with fucking Olin suspension, like I feel like I'd be asking for some shit to get fucked with. But you know, and you know, it's kind of like I don't know. There's definitely a desire to do that stuff, but I'm 38. My goal is hopefully by the time I'm 40 to at least experience one out of country ride. Not that I rode there, but I want to go to like Europe, rent a bike for a week or two or however long I can afford, and then just go see as much as I possibly can countryside wise. I prefer traveling on a bike to see things. To me, it just seems, like jumping in an airplane and going there and then jumping on a tourist bus or taking that kind of shit just doesn't seem as authentic as what you can get on a bike, almost like riding around Paris. And then all of a sudden you see the Eiffel Tower and you get closer and closer. It's like you're exploring it and you're finding it yourself as opposed to like jumping in a bus with some people. And,
you become immediately a person that lives there.
If you become familiar with it automatically.
Yeah.
It's funny because I did rent the bike. I rented a GS in Paris. And I was like, I had my girl and I said, jump on. And she's like, where are we going? I said, it don't matter. So we passed the Eiffel Tower. We passed, the Louvre.
Yeah.
And then we jumped on some highway and I saw this, I thought it was the downtown, but it's called La Defensa, which is like still downtown. And we're on the street and it kind of turns into a highway. And then all of a sudden there's a drop and it goes into a tunnel and you go under the La Defensa, under the city. And all of a sudden I'm in this tunnel for like 5 minutes, 6 minutes underground. I didn't even expect this. Like I had really didn't use any GPS or anything. And anyways, long story short, I ended up in like a really bad area in Paris, like really bad, like the East LA of Paris, like Muslims everywhere. Like I got off this exit and it was all the refugees. It's all the people with no money. As soon as we got off the exit, there was like 20 of them coming towards me, asking for money. And they're like, hey, can you, and I flipped out and, I went, burnt rubber. My girl was like, what do we do? And I go, I have to find a spot where I can stop and put GPS and get back to the hotel. And anyways, it was an interesting and a great experience. And there's obviously no regret, from it, but it was something that I wouldn't be able to experience if I wasn't, on a bike. And same thing, even if you just walk somewhere instead of taking the car, you start noticing, fuck, I didn't know that store was there. And what's going on here? You just see so much more.
Yeah. Dude, that's the thing. And then also like your buddy here, I can't pronounce it. Say your name again. I fucking
Jaime,
Jaime, right?
Jamie, is that good?
Jamie. There we go.
Well, Jaime.
Yeah, it's like
that's
Jamie
the way it's spelled, right?
Jaime.
Yeah. So, but I'm hugely into photography. I've always carried around a camera. I just recently jumped into a full frame camera. And as like a,
what are you shooting with?
Kind of a,
what are you shooting with?
Oh, it's a 6D Mark II for now.
Nice.
But I think, if I can justify it and continue to spend more time with it and feel better about it, I really want to jump up to the mirrorless, cameras that are coming out from Canon here pretty soon. Pretty excited about that. But no, I like we had a big event we hosted, about, a month ago now. We did the camp out, which is the Fast Life camp out. And we had like over 200 people from all over the country this side of the Rockies show up. And I spent the whole time with the camera, just trying to take pictures of people so that they could have that memory, and so for me, like this photography thing that I've recently gotten into, I've always been shooting pictures of trying to get better quality shit for our Instagram for the last like 6 years. But I never looked at my camera as like anything other than, okay, I'm going to shoot this helmet or this bike or take it with me to California and get some cool shots of the bike to post on Instagram. So I was never really looking into editing photos or trying to learn how to do any of that shit to the, more something I would want to print photos out. Right. You know what I mean? But now like it's kind of, I want to go ride places. I want to take more pictures and I don't know, man, I feel like I'm just turned into an old man and I just want to go sit in a coffee shop, and I don't even like coffee, but I'll drink tea or something there and just kind of like soak it up and read a paper or some shit. You know what I mean?
That's hilarious. He doesn't like coffee either.
Yeah.
I don't drink coffee
or tea.
You
drink a tea?
I love tea.
Drink a tea. Not that I love it, but I can drink it.
No, photography. I'm going to tell you this: do it. Follow it. Do it. Take the classes. Go online. I'm talking out of place because I suck at photography. I get lucky with the iPhone, but that's as far as I go.
Yeah.
But the world that I see, it's opened up for him. It's amazing. And not only that, but he enjoys it,
Yeah. So there's so many challenging things. Like, he was saying that you have a page where you do like fashion and other types of photography, man. I'll tell you what, you put a bike in front of me. I'm pretty confident I can get you some cool shots. I kind of know the angles of the bikes. I don't know how well the photo is gonna square up with other photographers, like looking at my settings and exposure and things like that. But
you'll make it work.
Dude, whenever I try, when I look at like a person and I'm like, how do I take a picture of this person and I don't know their angles, like I do a bike, you know what I mean? Because when I paint bikes, I'll have the bike sitting on, like a scissor jack on the floor, and I'll just get in a roll around chair and, a drink or, a beer or drink or, nothing. And I'll just sit there and look at the bike from every angle, just roll around it while I'm laying out tape on it to see how the graphics flow around the bags. And so doing that for like the last 12 years, you start to kind of have an eye for like when you shoot it, like, okay, when I get done with this paint job, it's going to look like this. And then this shot right here is going to be sick.
That's going to be the money shot.
You know what I mean?
As you're painting,
with the camera.
You'd be like, this is going to be the money shot.
Yeah.
Stand 5
you can
feet away.
visualize it. Yeah. You can visualize it. And since I ride bikes, I'm not saying that there's not other amazing painters out there that don't ride bikes, but because I ride so much bikes, I would, boastfully say that I probably put on more miles than a lot of shops or influencers do in America.
Yeah.
In some aspects, not the most, but I do a lot of miles. And
most, I guarantee you, most than most people.
Yeah. So you end up like knowing like where the rock chips are going to come on most paint jobs. So where to keep it more simple, cheaper colors to repair, things like that. And then you also get like a visualization, like when you're rolling and you're passing a fucking, gas tanker and it's chrome and you're looking at yourself in the reflection, like, oh, that's a badass shot.
Yeah.
I wish that was a camera right there. And so you start to kind of visualize, especially when you're on the road and, after you've been on the road for a minute, you start to kind of chip away at all those layers of thought. And now you're kind of left alone with just like some pure, like creativeness, if you will, and I started thinking about all kinds of shit. Like, man, this would be a dope shot. A paint job right here would look dope if this from this angle on the side, you know what I mean? You just kind of, that's kind of what I do. And sometimes I need that go away and then come back and I'm refreshed and have new creative ideas for paint jobs and designs.
Influences. What's funny is I took a photography class in high school, but it was obviously with film and, you had to learn how to fucking do the black box inside the bag and all that shit.
Yeah.
But, my point is my professor at that time, my teacher at that time, which may rest in peace now, he told me some of the greatest pictures ever taken were because the person was at the right place at the right time with the camera, and by traveling and having your camera, obviously you're going to see a lot more than opportunities that you want to document or that moment. Like, look at this sunset, look at this sunrise, look at these clouds, look at this, landscape, etc.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another of my multiple Instagrams is exactly about what Robert just said. I have an account for street photography, and I lived in New York for 6 years. 2 out of those years, I decided to go to work every single day with my camera in my hand. So and shoot pictures of people that didn't know that I was shooting them. So I have a whole account just with from in black and white of people that didn't see or they were not seeing me shooting them. And at the end, the rush makes you want to kind of warn them so they know that you're shooting them because of the uncomfortable situation. So I would just point at them and wait until they look at me. And when they look at me, I would just shoot. And
that's interesting.
And it's pretty cool to see their faces and how people react differently and stuff. Luckily, I have this accent with me. So I can always pretend to be stupid and be like, tourist or whatever,
It's silly guy. He's got an accent.
You just smile and be like, sorry, whatever.
I saw a guy, it's funny because we got deep into the photography conversation, but I saw a guy, he did the same thing in New York, and he was taking pictures of random people in New York. And he did this for like 8-9 years. And he actually he found similar people from like 8 years ago to current. And he posted up the comparison. Some had the same outfits.
Wow.
Some gained weight. Some got skinnier. Some, it was just interesting how he captured a moment in time, froze it, and then, recapped it. And some of them, he had multiple people he was taking pictures of that same person, jumping on the same subway, jumping, whatever the case is. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, man, there's I'm pretty fortunate, man. I have a close friend here in Dallas that I'm a real big fan of his photography from the artistic standpoint that he takes.
What's his name?
His name's Tim O'Keefe. He runs a magazine called the Stag Mag. So he's pretty well known in the vintage chopper industry, like especially out in SoCal and stuff like that. But he's just got a perspective that really rubs off on me to where it's, when I talk to him about the photos that I take or he critiques my shit, it's like right now for me, like photography is the only thing that I have that I didn't turn into a business and I don't want to, because
you don't want to turn it into a business.
No,
you're
because
already using it as a business. That's bullshit.
I'm using it as a tool for my business, but I don't want it to be like, hey, hit me up. I'm doing shoots today for $200 an hour or some shit. Like, I don't want to get to that point.
Well, how much would it take? 2,000 an hour?
No. Well, the problem is if I took a dime, the way my mind works and that the hustleness inside of me is like, as soon as I make a dime on something, I immediately start finding ways to make more. You know what I mean? And eventually it becomes that. And then it's not fun and it's not a hobby anymore. It's another job.
It's work.
You know what I mean?
It's happened to me too. Yeah.
And so it's like,
it's a very thin line, of pleasure and business.
Yeah. And the crazy thing about it, like we just had what we called a hood ride here in Dallas this weekend where we all got like the Fort Worth and the Dallas performance bikes together. And then we invited some of the stunt riders out and we just kind of terrorized Dallas for a couple hours. And I got a lot of really rad shots, in my opinion, for just my perspective of it. And usually that would be me trying to be out in the front line and show my bike off and try to be seen by everybody. But I'm finding that carrying a camera around is probably one of the most ego dissolving things I've ever had. All of a sudden I'm looking at it to where like, I want to try to give everybody here, I want to give them a photo of them. You know what I mean? Whether they like it or whether it's badass or not, hopefully it's badass, or at least they like
badass. It's super badass. Keep that shit up.
But yeah, man, it's really strange because like
nobody would fucking tell you that's weird. That's fucking super badass. I mean, the people trying to sell you images all the fucking time. People sit at home and get on their fucking phones while they're at the toilet and look at pictures all fucking day. Like, of course.
Well, we're also conditioned over most of our adult lives, I think, filling out online profiles and trying to market ourselves, even though we were just trying to say what our favorite bands were, our favorite movies were from MySpace or chat rooms before that. And so, we got this training of narcissism. I think that I've struggled with understanding it over the last 2 years, but I'm starting to kind of get a grasp on it where I feel like everything I was doing before was all about the marketing of myself and my brand, which has kind of helped me get to where I'm at, in some aspects. But, like if I get another 100 or another 10,000 followers in the next 2 weeks, it's not really going to change my business much. I'm already at capacity for how much I can paint every year. It's not going to do much for me. So the whole, throttling back on, the promotion of myself and getting pictures of me riding and getting pictures of that shit. This has been a very, very fun time these last like month or so, like just going out and trying to get photos of friends riding, friends doing whatever. And just, yo, dude, just check out this shot I got of you here, bro. That's yours.
Fucking badass. Good for you, man.
Yeah. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Badass. It's cool.
And it's funny because you're starting off like slow, like, fuck, is it weird that I like it so much? Do I want to say it? Fuck, it is badass. Oh shit, this is so, I love this. Actually, I'm going to do it more. Bro, keep that shit up, man.
Yeah, Robert has a person really close to him that shoots him down every time he tries.
Every time.
And he knows how it feels.
When I want a logo done or when I want a picture taken, I take a shitty fucking picture. I just be like, and then I send it to him. Like, hey, you think this will work? And he's like, fuck you, Robert. I'll be right there. let me take care of that. But
so the other aspect to that is like, I grew up in garages working on cars and bikes. And, when I was younger and I didn't have the responsibilities, man, all my buddies used to have, that's how I practiced paint, was painting their cars and bikes when I was younger, 22 years old, living in my grandparents' house. No job, just painting in the garage all day.
You were living at your grandparents' house because your parents went around or they were working?
No, well,
if you want to talk about it, sorry, I just had to ask.
No, it's my parents, they they both got their shit together by the time I graduated high school. But you know, my mother had I have a younger brother. And she was kind of, he was born in 96. So in 2001,
That's a big difference.
2002,
81, 82?
82. So it's 13 years apart.
Yeah, so your birthday just passed.
And so,
Happy
yeah.
birthday.
So, well, my birthday is September.
Oh, so you're 81 then, right? Because you said you were 80. You're 37.
37. So I'm
so you're
82.
38. Sorry, my bad.
Yeah. Yeah. So, no, I was staying at my grandparents' house, man. Like I had a kid young, and then that relationship didn't work. The apartment that we had didn't work. So the fallback was always the grandparents' house. Right. So, and it was a pivotal time, man. Just like anything, I got to put in a lot of hours learning how to paint, and it was necessary for me to kind of grow as fast as I did in the paint industry. But that was the only part of my life that I got to give my buddies my paint jobs at no cost to them, other than them maybe covering the materials or something.
Which is huge.
And then, yeah. And then, so as I've gotten older, you know, it's so much more in demand for a helmet. And, you know, you would think a helmet like, hey, that should be easy to knock one out, when no, they take me like a week a piece almost.
Yeah.
Right. And I just can't give away a week's worth of my work to a friend just because he's my buddy. You know,
when were you able to separate the buddyship price and you know, go like, you know, pricing, giving numbers? Like, I fucking hate giving numbers. When were you able to break that up, and how did you break that up?
Man, I think that when I was younger, when I was in my 20s, man, like, I think that everybody was looking for, you know, to take advantage. It's a natural thing. Like, oh, this kid, he needs me more than I need him. You know, and a lot of people, some people were really, really great customers that helped me kind of grow, but a lot of people were just like trying to take advantage. So, you know, and I was too young to understand my worth, and I might not have been as good as I needed to be to kind of have the confidence to shoot down people or whatever. But probably, you know, about 10 years into it, about 2013, early 2014, I was able to, when I started traveling and I became a painter that painted bikes for people all over the country, as opposed to just here in Dallas, then it was easier to get higher prices for people in Dallas. And then when Instagram started getting, you know, I started using that, you know, as the prices would go up, because, you know, like, put it like this, the first couple of helmets I ever did were like $500 to paint them. Right. Which is about the going rate for most people on a. Sorry,
that's the price it costs, or that's how much it cost you?
No, that's just the price that I was doing helmets for when I first started painting some of the Simpson helmets that I do. But now, due to the demand and kind of the way I've tried to market, if that's the right word, for our helmets, I think most of the people buy helmets from me to the art side of it, like they want to own a piece from the Fast Life Garage or me or whatever the case may be. And secondly, what I've told people what my helmets mean to me, I think now they feel the same way. So now our helmets are kind of like a $2,000 to get a paint job plus the cost of the helmet versus then.
Yeah.
So when my buddies most of my friends now will pay me full retail, and it's up to me whether or not I want to kick them a couple $100s off or not. And because of that mutual respect that they give me, if I can afford to give them a $200 or $300 discount off that thing, or $500, depending on the situation, then I will. But the fortunate thing is that I surrounded myself with people that respected me, basically, you know, and not to say that your friends don't, but if you think about it, like, if they're going to look at you as like, I should be able to get this for free, but it takes hours of your time. Now, if I sold motorcycle parts, right? Not to say that this is 100% accurate, but if I sold motorcycle parts and you're a close friend of mine and you wanted to get a new tire on your bike and that tire is $240, my cost is $160, and I give it to you for $180, you know, that's me hooking you up because you're my boy, right? Yeah. But that didn't take any time out of my life, right? Mm-hmm. That was a transaction. Even if I gave it to you at dealer cost, that's still a transaction. It didn't cost me time. And when you're busy doing things, time is lots of money. So it takes me a week to do a helmet, and that's $2,000. If you want me to discount that, that's almost like saying, hey, can you go to work for 4 days and not make any money because we're friends?
Yeah.
And if your friend is willing to look at you like that and expect that from you just because you're friends, I don't think they're really your friend, you know?
Yeah. And to add also what you said earlier, you're capped and limited on how much you can make and how many clients you can get. You could have a line of 10,000 people outside, but that ain't going to make a difference because you can't get to them.
Exactly. So, and that's the only reason why, like, the only logical thing to do is to charge more for the helmets. When you have, 40 people willing to pay you $2,000 to get a helmet paint job, and I'm at a point now where some of them are even offering me another $500 to $1,000 on top of it to skip the line.
Yeah, of course.
And I let one dude do it. Yeah, I let one dude do it. But then I'm like, well, fuck, man, if I let all these dudes start doing that, then what about the dude that's been waiting for 4 months for this helmet? Like, that's not fair. So every time I think this is with everything in life. Every time you get past one obstacle, you're just coming into the next level of obstacles that you're going to have to deal with. There's never like this, once you get over this mountain, everything's fucking perfect. Everything works. It's like a well-oiled machine. It really doesn't work.
I mean, it's a better problem to have, right? That you have too many.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Right. But
yeah.
It's a great problem, but I understand what you're saying. Ethically, you start thinking, what's the right thing to do? What's the right approach? I don't want to fucking burn bridges. Yeah. And you won't even burn the bridges. I'm sure your relationships are so fucking strong that's not even a concern. But ethically, you feel bad and you have that guilt, and that's.
Well, yeah. So the great thing about it is, like, when you have customers to choose from, basically, I would weed them out by how they are conversation wise. If they were going to be too needy for me to be able to take care of their needs, or if their expectations weren't really aligned with my style that I offer as art, just try to cut those potential problems in the bud. That way, you're not getting stressed out 2 weeks into a project when you already told this dude it's a 6-month wait list.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
How many people at your shop?
And so just me. You. And I have an apprentice. Yeah.
You have an apprentice. Fuck, that's hard, bro. Yeah, how do you do it?
It's the best. I feel, I said earlier, man, I was involved. I had a big shop, had $1 million investor. It was going places. I didn't have control over the business, even though I started it. That was the stipulation of the $1 million. And I got to get a taste of what a big shop is like. And it's for me, at least, it was not creative. It was not art. It was copy and paste. It was, you weren't looked at as like, I'm so stoked to be doing work with Jace. It was more like, he's got this item that I'm buying and he better have it or I'm pissed. Right.
Yeah.
It's not a relationship that I want to have with my customers. When I downsized my company and I made it super small and I just focused on what I'm capable of doing every year at the best of my ability. And I put a price tag on it that I have two prices. I have the $1,500 is the base price, and the $2,000 is the ones that have the airbrush on the top. That's it. There's no one or the other. I mean, there's no in between those two. Yeah, it's $1,500 and it's $2,000
plus the helmet.
Yeah, well, yeah, plus the cost of the helmet. And the reason I do that is that my goal is to put in 100% effort and to make this thing sick as hell. I don't care how long it takes me. Right? Sometimes it doesn't take me long. Sometimes it takes me a long time. But instead of playing a negotiation game and wasting time doing that, if I just charge what I need to have 5 days into this helmet to be profitable and not make me worried about money, and I can do way better quality work at that price tag, as opposed to if this guy's like, oh, well, I'm willing to pay $1,200, and I'm like, fuck, man, Now I'm devaluing what I'm going to give you because you just devalued me.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Makes sense.
So there's a lot of psychological shit that I've kind of learned to help keep me tip top in the art that I'm going to try to provide, and just weed out potential people that are going to be issues later on that you're not going to be able to please. And there's some customers out there.
Nobody's going to be able to please everybody. It's impossible.
Yeah.
Is it possible to, hypothetically, I'm just asking in your business, is it hypothetical? Let's say you have a month that it's slow. Let's say it's December and it's fucking slow. Can you buy like 4 or 5 helmets and just start fucking, getting off on them, fucking painting them, Yeah. Is it easy?
I do that every once in a while.
What's that?
I have a sponsorship with Simpson, and sometimes I get helmets in. And so the last couple of months I had like 3 extra helmets, and I just did something very simple. Like one of them I painted flaked out purple, put a pinstripe design on it. I really don't offer that. Like you're going to pay me $1,500 for that if just for the paint, just because that's my starting price for the tier.
Right.
But I did that and I put the helmet out for sale at like, I think it was $900 shipped to your door. Right.
Whoa.
Because I really want people to have something from me. Like,
and share it.
It means a lot to me. And you know, like I didn't have to pay for that helmet. You know, that was a sponsored deal. So to me, that was like a complete profit. So that was $900 profit.
Well, you still put your time in there. You still sacrifice. You still put sweat. Your rent, your shop, your materials.
Yeah, there's all that. But you know, the thing about it all is that the less money that's involved with everything, as far as like it being about money, the more you're thinking about the art. Like I'm good financially. Like I'm handling things pretty regularly. I'm not rich by any means, but I'm not struggling. Like if I want to go to the gas station right now and drop $10, I don't have to think about that. You know what I mean? And so, you know, to that I'm fucking thankful for. So like I said, keeping myself less stressed gives me the time to look at my helmets and put in the work that's necessary. And, like I said, I consider what I'm doing on these helmets to be art. So I want people to buy it as art and not buy it as material possessions. Like, you know, I try to talk people out of matching their bikes with their helmets because that is kind of inherently a materialistic way of looking at your helmet, as opposed to, you know, I like to look at helmets as it's an extension of you. Like, so me, I have a helmet for every year I ride, and my listeners are fucking over this story already.
No, I want to hear it.
So every year I do a new helmet for myself, and that's the helmet that I ride with for that year. And, I don't really get to keep the bikes that I build for myself or customize. So when those bikes, I have to sell them to do another one or to, you know, cover the fact that I just spent half the year on a bike, you know, I don't get to keep it, man, but I get to keep the helmet that I did all those trips on, all those experiences. And so when I have them hanging on my wall here in the studio, I look at my 2017 helmet and I think about the fact that I rode coast to coast with that thing. Or I look at the next one next to it. I'm like, I remember that trip I did. You know what I mean?
You're living.
It's like an urn.
That's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
You're living the dream.
So,
and in the dream, and you have something to remind you. It's fucking amazing.
Yeah. And so,
how many helmets are
I have 3. I'm wearing my 4th one, but I have 3 that I actually started this trend on. But then I found out that I had my helmets from 2015 and 2016 in my house. They were just junked and thrown in like a case of helmets that I had. So I actually pulled those out, and they're nowhere near as nice as the ones I have, because I used to absolutely fucking hate painting helmets. But these 3 plus the one I'm wearing now, and then I have 2. So basically, I think from 2014 all the way to now, you know. You
ever have somebody silly enough just to ask you, like, hey man, can you fucking paint my helmet for free, bro? Like, you know, I got social media, I got, you know, followers.
Yeah, I mean, I get that, but also I have this like secret book that's not secret now because I'm telling you, but I had this little like book or this note, like it's a note in my iPhone, and it's just like all the dudes or friends that I have that I want to have a helmet for. I want to, like, if I had the money to do it for them, that I would do it 100%. Because for me, it doesn't benefit me much to sponsor anybody, because I'm already at capacity with what I can put out as it is, right?
Yeah.
But like I said, man, like there's something it feels so amazing to see my friends from all over the country that I've made through the podcast and riding. And when you see one of them rocking the helmet that you did for them, you know, they might look at it like, oh, it's going to be cool Instagram post, or it'd be cool to have a helmet for me. But I think about those hours at my house on my drawing table till 3 a.m, wadding up paper, trying to get the right lines on a sketch, you know, before I even touch the helmet, you know. So I have a lot of my life invested into every helmet that I try to, you know, it sounds sentimental and shit, but it just,
you're a sentimental guy, bro.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. I definitely am.
Would you say that most people that buy a helmet from you or that you paint for them, do they wear it?
Yeah, I think most people do wear it. But I've only known of 2 people that's ever had me do a helmet. and actually sold it to somebody.
No, I mean, if they keep it as an art piece, I'm thinking about myself. If I would ever send you a helmet and I'm paying $2,000, it would be probably an art piece in my house more than I would never dare to wear that helmet in the street.
So I actually just had this conversation with the guy that was asking me about doing a helmet the other day. And he was asking me, he's like, oh, so, if you paint the helmet and I drop it and I chip it, like, what's the process of getting it fixed? I'm like, you don't get it fixed. And he's like, well, I was like, first off, you're not supposed to drop your helmet in the first fucking place. Cause now blah, blah, blah. I've dropped mine millions of times and still worn them. But the thing is, in my perspective, is that it is the experience. You're going to remember that when you drop that. You're going to remember the wreck you had in that thing. Put it on the wall still. That is a battle-worn helmet on the wall now to show you what you went through last year. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. If you're going to fix everything wrong with it, man, like, is it really going to represent the last year you had on that bike or the last 2 years?
Yeah. Not at all.
But I get it. Like if it's, the problem is
that's interesting because I understand what he's saying too. Like California is, there's people that have fucking insane money. And there's people that will just buy, a fucking motorcycle and put it as a display in their house. They'll never even ride it. If it's a collector's or a movie piece or an art piece or somebody, painted it, they'll just do that. Has anybody out there, or you guys are just a bunch of warriors and just wear everything, huh?
Yeah. Well, I guess the other great thing about all this stuff is like building the podcast audience over the years. They've, wanted to have a piece from me. So like, it's kind of the blessing to have someone that's so invested in knowing you and knowing what you're about to get art from you, because they are the best customers to ever work with that I've had so far. But when you get that customer that doesn't know you, that doesn't listen to the podcast or doesn't follow us, like their buddy tagged them in a picture of a helmet I did, and they just start following me and they said, how much, bro? Those kind of guys, like they almost never come through. They're asking how much, not that you shouldn't ask that, but they're just not. I don't think that those customers really are going to like vibe with my personality, because I'm kind of an asshole in a sense. Like, and I tell everybody, I was like, look, we're going to be best friends at the end of this. But right now I care more about putting out quality, badass, what you want helmet, not how I'm not trying to sell you a Mercedes and pat your back and, tug one off for you. Like, this isn't a customer service shop. I'm working all day. I'm trying to give the customer that's already here the same attention that you're going to get from me when it's your turn.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But at those level of prices, I would, for example, I personally would give you a call and say, hey, full on freedom, do whatever you want.
Yeah.
I
would usually say,
I have a piece in my wall for you, and I'll hang it in my house and, have it like an art piece. I think that it says a lot about, picking the right artist and having the art piece intact and how you envisioned it. And I think I will be fucking it up if I take it off roading with whatever you painted that came out of your own full inspiration.
Yeah, I mean, there are dudes that do just sit them on the shelf, but it's really rad whenever you're seeing like your buddies or these people that you become friends with because of a helmet transaction. Posting pictures of them riding through the Teledragon and shit. Getting the photos.com pictures and it's got your helmet. It's like, fuck, that's cool. That helmet is now, I got to create the art, or I got to do something that you're going to hold on to and cherish, and you're going to have that picture and that helmet and see, you know what I mean? It's just the sentimentalness is overflowing.
So you see more value on people wearing it than on people, maybe
I want people to have the experience in it.
Artistic part of it and maintaining like an art piece kind of.
All this motorcycle shit, these helmets, these trips, however you decide to ride, it's all based around the passion for motorcycles and the passion for the experiences you get on them. And so some people hear that price tag and they're I always associated this, and this is very asshole of me to do. I'm judging them basically, but I feel like when people are, trying to frame this without sounding like too much of a dick, but
be a dick.
I find that,
go ahead, man.
Yeah, well, because I'm trying not to be a dick. I actually forgot what I was going to say.
No, it happens. No, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I see both sides, you know, because
True.
If you're going to spend $2,000, $3,000, I mean, there's people that even, you know, charge more. You know, there is, you know, the best place for it is on the road. But then sometimes, I mean, fuck, people buy a painting for, you know, $100,000 just to hang up on the wall.
True.
Sometimes they don't even put it on the wall. Sometimes they just put it directly in a storage just as an investment.
Yeah, exactly.
Have you seen your helmets turn into an investment where, you know, you do it for $2,000 and somebody else is trying to sell it for $3,000 or something?
No, not so much yet, but you know, kind of arrogantly, I noticed like guys like Jesse James and Arlen Ness and these greats in our industry over the years, as they would build stuff and build their name and their legacy, if you will. And now something that maybe they didn't even physically hand make, but because it had their name on it, that those parts aren't manufactured anymore, are worth their weight in gold.
Yeah, of course.
You know what I mean? And so when you start looking at that, like I said, maybe that narcissism is coming back out, but I look at it like, you know, if I want to leave my mark on this motorcycle industry, the first thing I want to do is I want to know that because I was here, I did my part to make it better for everybody in the future generations. But secondly, whatever I do, whatever bike I make, whatever helmet I do, or these podcasts or whatever the case may be, I really want to know that it would be something so amazing for me on my dying deathbed to know that there are people out there going, you know, having bidding wars on eBay or whatever the thing's going to be for something that I created 20, 30, 40 years ago. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So like I said,
it'll be less. I promise you, you know, the little that I've got to know you and hear your story, you're absolutely taking all the right steps. You have a good heart.
Yeah.
You're ethical. You're not greedy. You have all the qualities of absolutely having your helmets out there and your artwork out there. And in 5 years, you got to do the YouTube. You better do the YouTube channel, you know, but once you do all that, you know, and you continue, you know, exceeding and, you know, accomplishing what you're doing right now, you'll get so much further and so many more followers and so much more value. And I think people are already appreciating the value that you've created.
Yeah, man. You know, I appreciate you saying that, man. It means a lot. I don't know, man. Like, I think, you know, in a sense, like, you know, I'm 37. So the whole idea of what I'm going to actually leave behind, I'm probably never going to be a millionaire in the sense that I have $1 million. I think I'll make $1 million in my lifetime. I think I might have already done it, but I don't have $1 million. So money doesn't motivate me as much as leaving something attached to my name, attached to this industry. And as a painter, predominantly painter, I have worked on bikes quite a bit in my life, but I wouldn't, you know, call myself a builder, you know, from the terms of, you know, every Facebook chat that goes off the rails for what is a builder, right. You know, but it's, you know, I think the painters are oftenly overlooked as their real role in the motorcycle customizing process nationwide. And maybe that's because a lot of painters aren't as heavy into motorcycles as someone like I am. But there are a lot of them. I mean, Valley Customs right over there is a good friend of mine, Gerald, really into bikes, you know, Buck Wild. I want to say Hot Dog is too out there. There's a lot of really invested motorcycle guys in the paint industry. And it'd be nice to just see that like those guys start getting a fair shake at their popularity when they're literally creating the most visual things on these bikes.
Yeah, man.
But it's always overlooked. Half the time you look into a build sheet, it'll just say painted by the same shop that built it. And it's just because they're taking credit for it because they want
Hot Dog.
you to go
worked for Jesse James and you know, he didn't get as much credit.
Exactly. So it's you know, and that's why like when we started this podcast, man, like first off, you know, like you were saying about yours, you kind of want to have more than just one thing to talk about, one premise to place your whole thing on, because that shit'll get old real quick. You know what I mean?
Especially online.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, the motorcycle industry and the shops, and we all kind of start the same fucking way. It's just different temperature outside when it happens. You know what I mean? It's the same shit. So the story gets very redundant and it could be, you know, boring even for myself to listen to sometimes, but not to take away. But in that, it becomes a challenge on us podcasters to try to dig deep and look for those rabbit holes in people's conversations to kind of take the conversation. You know what I mean? But
there's a bunch of people. I strongly believe there's a bunch of people that want this casual conversation. They want to know the entrepreneurship, parts aside.
Yeah,
they want
for
to
sure.
know how a person succeeds. They want to know advice in riding, where to ride. They want to know the journeys. They want to know the exploration. There's a lot of people that want that information. So that's why it's like the Ride Boundless podcast is not just all motorcycles. It should be cars. It should be bikes. It should be regular traveling, jumping on a plane and knowing the world.
Yeah. Exactly. And I completely agree. And so when we first started ours, I looked at it like, what are all the things I'm into? Because the other aspect is, and I have this conversation with a lot of my audience that sends out requests for people they like to hear from. I got to feel like I can have a conversation with them. Like sometimes like you just throw me in the mix and I can do it and we can make it happen. But when I start investing or investigating into somebody and I can't find an angle that I'm interested in, not to say that anything bad about the person, but like I'm not super interested in certain aspects of motorcycling. So I don't want to do this due to disjustice of taking his story or his message and doing a shit job at it. You know what I mean? So
yeah, it's difficult.
I would,
you look for your match.
Yeah. And so, like right now, like I've never really been a huge fan of the stunt riding industry or scene, but
why is that?
I've been I grew up around it in the sport bikes. I've seen it so much and it just never
phased you.
I don't know. I'm fucking 37, man. I don't give a shit about doing wheelies, but on that note, my apprentice is an amazing stunt rider on Harleys. And this last weekend, hanging out with some of the other guys in town and just seeing how that world's progressed here in Dallas. I'm real motivated, not so much not to do it, but I think these dudes are fucking talented. And now I want the world to know them. You know what I mean? So I want to find a way to invest. I know about it. I know a lot about stunt riding. I'm just not interested in it.
Right.
If that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Well, but regardless, what you're saying is you've created a platform to blast it to the world of, hey,
exactly.
I'm not into it. I know about it, but you got to check these motherfuckers out. They're amazing.
Exactly. And so that's what I'm trying to do is because, by getting and going and doing these rides with them, getting to know them, finding my angles of what to exploit, if you will, with them, it makes it to where I feel like I can do them a good service to bring them on this podcast, and my audience will enjoy them and want to be more engaged with them, whether they follow or buy their shit or whatever the case may be. But, I'm into photography. I'm into travel. I have my group of friends that we come on here and we just talk shit. I like the fact that, like I was telling you earlier, I'm a podcast listener. So sometimes on Rogan, I don't really care for the science. Every once in a while, I'm in the mood for some science. I want to learn some shit. Sometimes I just want to hear him trip out with his buddies that he does comedy with. And I have the best time listening to that. And there's still relevant topics being said, but they're saying it in just a more free flowing kind of way. And I dig that versus him having Jack Dorsey on to talk about the complicated topics of censorship. And I get it. I just couldn't,
right, there's a
I couldn't stay interested. Yeah.
Well,
so I try to give the variety basically myself.
I'm going to tell you, man, I think all bullshit aside, you're a fucking millionaire. I mean, you're living the life. There's nothing, some people say fuck, man, I want to be successful. I want to be a millionaire because I want to travel, because I want to take my bike, because I want to open up my own shop, because I want a wife, because I want kids. You've already accomplished all that shit. You're doing, I think if you had $1 million in your account right now, your life wouldn't change much at all other than you would have $1 million in your account.
I would be on the road more and I'd probably have to pay my wife to go on the long trips with me. So it'd probably be getting used up there.
Just fly her over there, honey. I'll meet you there.
Yeah, that's what we do now. Yeah, we usually fly her out to the place.
Do you ride with your bags or you ship your bags?
Honestly, man, I didn't. I've shipped my tent and a couple of things to Sturgis before, and I'll ship it to Sturgis or Daytona and then pick up the big shit while I get there and then ship it home. Or something. I have a couple methods that I do when I do the 2 or 3 week trips that I've taken, where I'll get to a certain point, ship a bunch of shit home, go to Walmart, buy a new pack of underwear, new pack of socks. That way I'm not like having to go to
fresh.
laundromats and waste a whole day, you know. The complicated, so I was going to do a huge trip to New York in the Northeast, which I haven't been up there yet. The furthest Northeast I've been is the border of the border of Virginia and Tennessee, I guess. I don't think it's West Virginia. But this year I was supposed to be going June 8th. I was going to go up to New York. I got a customer that lives in Harlem, and I was going to stay a couple days there with him, and he was going to show me the city. And then me and him were going to ride Long Island, all of Boston. We had an Airbnb in Cape Cod. We were going to do Maine, Mount Washington, Laconia for 2 days, and then head on over to Niagara and ride Pittsburgh and kind of come back through the Smokies. And it was going to be about 2.5 week trip. And then this Corona shit happened. And it didn't subside quick enough for us to I don't want to go to New York and see it in the state that it's in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I want to go see New York normally.
To see New York. They were just at New York, 3 months ago, 4 months
Yeah,
ago?
we were there in September. It was great. It was great weather. I mean, it was a little hot, but and we were riding a little bit around there. But we went for 3 days to Indian Larry's block party.
Yeah.
I've been going every year since I moved to New York, even when I was living here. So I went with a friend and we were riding around. But yeah, we didn't leave the state. It was just a 3-day trip. So,
and there was a bunch of events there.
What I wanted to do with that trip is I was really gearing up. The reason I've been shooting a Nikon for the last like 4 years, but it was just like a D7200. So it wasn't a full frame camera. It was just kind of a mid-range, like just normal DSLR. So I jumped up to the full frame. I got the Rode mic for the camera. I got all this shit so I can start doing this like vlog or whatever the fuck I was going to do with this YouTube. And then I'm like on my bike, I got a drone. I got this computer for the podcast. I got this camera. And I'm like, shit, man.
I need a team.
I need a team. Yeah. So I was looking forward to kind of kicking off doing that with that trip, but it's all got put on hold. So now we're just kind of like looking at Sturgis this year. And then if Born Free got moved up to September, but even if they don't allow it happen, I'm still just going to ride out to California in September sometime. I drove out there to see family in January, did a couple podcasts in San Diego and there, and then drove back home. So I'm usually in California at least 3 or 4 times a year.
Well, you got to make sure next time you're down here, you hit us up.
What part are y'all in?
I'm by Universal Studios. I'm like a block away from Universal Studios. So Studio City,
so you're towards like
Hollywood Hills.
Yeah, I'm closer to your aunt,
Okay.
close to Venice and Culver City.
Nice. Okay, hell yeah. Dude, it's awesome down there, man. I love that vibe. Like my aunt, or my wife's aunt actually lives there in Venice, and she's just cool. She's like an OG Veniceite. You know what I mean? Like she was there before all the gentrification, and her house is old, but it's fucking the dopest. Like, we look at, the kind of houses you can get here in Texas is pretty surreal, for 200, 300, 400 grand. And, her property is like worth over $1 million, but the house looks like it would go for, 50 grand here.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, man.
Yeah, everybody looks at those, man. It's funny.
When I sit at her house and her yard and her house, man, I feel like this is perfect, dude. Like this is like, it's a 2-bedroom, 1 bath, everything you need, but like just perfect little slice of California right there, a couple blocks from the ocean.
Over a land that is worth $3 million.
Yeah, exactly, man. It's pretty insane. I mean, from Texas here, man, like I grew up looking at movies, and all kinds of shit from Hollywood and California in general. So I remember the first time I went to San Francisco, dude, like the not the most recent Godzilla movie that came out, but the one that came out probably in 2014 where like Godzilla like rampaged through fucking, San Francisco.
Fucking Barham, yeah.
Yeah, I'm like standing right here at Battery Sensor going, fuck, that's where Godzilla fought like 2 days ago on the movie, man. It's like, it's pretty crazy to see these places in real life,
and James Franco,
like there's
Planet of the Apes also right there in the Golden Bridge.
and Alcatraz.
Yeah, we did Alcatraz. I've done, when I would take people up there on these trips, like we would usually, we haven't done it the last 2 times, but we've done Alcatraz 3 times on the trips, and it's always badass, man.
Yeah,
like just being on the ocean for a little bit.
Fucking awesome.
So
no, I really love San Francisco. And then what's cool is when you go to a lot of the local spots, you start recognizing places that they put on movies. Like I was watching Westworld, and on the last episode I was watching, they were like Singapore, and then the scene is inside Tao. You know, it's a Chinese, Japanese restaurant. And I'm like, that's Tao. Like, you know, that ain't no fucking Singapore. And you see a lot of that in movies where you're like, that's not nowhere where they're saying it is. And obviously we know that, but it's a whole different experience when you actually witness it and you recognize it.
You know, the other day I was watching a show, it's called Small Little Fires or Little Fires Everywhere, that is now in Netflix, I think it is. And according to the story, the girl is in New York, and they're recording the shot, and they're in front of Colin's shop.
Oh, it's
right here in downtown LA. And I was like, that's not fucking New York. That's right here. That's our friend's store. And it's literally the same way that he has already. He didn't even change anything at all.
Nothing.
No green screen, no anything. They just shot downtown LA.
One of the best examples of that fuckery, basically, is if you ever go watch RoboCop, the first one, they filmed that in Dallas, but it was all about a Detroit cop.
Right.
Like they said it was Detroit, almost like people
wouldn't know that.
Like how, like dude, like the buildings are shaped differently, bro. It's so fucking obvious. It's not Detroit. And but yeah, that's that. I know what you mean by that.
It's the Hollywood magic.
Like so the Kill Bill Church is up there in Lancaster, California.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I've been there, man. They actually kicked me out.
El Paso in real life.
Right.
They actually kicked me out from shooting some pictures of models at the church, at the door of the church. Because obviously it's private property, and that's what the guy lives out of, you know, photography and videography.
Same thing. Scarface, the mansion.
Yeah.
Right here in Hollywood. It's off, I think, King Street or Queen Street. You know, it's up on the hill. Almost a lot of the scenes. I think they only did 2 weeks of filming in Miami, and then the rest was all. Yeah,
it's probably just the beginning. Yeah, like some of the beach things, like they were hanging out and shit. They might have done that in LA, to be honest with you.
Well, no, that was Miami. That definitely was Miami. I recognize that part. I go to Miami quite a bit, or I used to go quite a bit.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. So do you travel a lot? Like I know that you were working in the dealerships.
Yeah, I worked a lot at the dealerships. After that, I've done a lot of international travels. You know, I've gone right now. My list is I've been to Russia, I've been to Dubai, Qatar, Cuba, Colombia, Mexico, Spain recently, Italy. Italy's so fucked up right now. It's a trip just being there. Maybe I had 8 months ago. 8 months ago?
I had a friend. Like maybe 5 or 6, probably 6 podcasts ago that was here on a like LA to Texas to Vegas back to LA, then flying back home to Italy. He's a painter, and he stopped in here. He had to cut his flight. He had to cut his trip short and haul ass back to LA just to get back to Italy before they completely shut everything off right before the coronavirus shit happened.
Who knows if that was the right decision for him, you know, with all the madness and all that.
Yeah, he was gonna be trapped here, man. He would have probably had to, I mean, not that he couldn't have found someone to bum it with for 3 months now or 2 months.
Yeah, but the problem is I know too many people because of the whole COVID-19 and the whole coronavirus. There's I know at least 5 cases of people panicking and going back home. And now they're home, you know, in their countries, and it's not a good place to be. You know, as soon as you land there, you're automatically 14 days in quarantine. If you're going to stay at family's house, well, guess what? They don't want to see you until you have at least 14 days of quarantine because you just got on a fucking plane. Yeah. You took the risk of getting sick, you know. I mean, I just know, here's the thing. If there's a situation or a problem, the best place to be is where you're at. You know, like even in Los Angeles, I was listening to this scientist or doctor. He was saying when there's earthquakes, like if you talk to anybody in California, they're like, if there's an earthquake, fuck, where are we going to meet? Let's go north, you know, let's go west or east, you know, let's go wherever, you know. When an earthquake happens, the best place for you to be is stay the fuck at home because everybody else is trying to move. And when you're in a place that has this much traffic, you know, and there's an emergency, forget about it. Same thing with the coronavirus. I knew people in other countries that were vacationing, you know, that they were going to stay out. They actually moved out there for a bit. And, you know, this kicked down and they're like, I'm going back to the US. I'm like, don't do it. I'm going to jump on a China Airway flight. It literally was a China Airway flight. And then you're going to come here and you're not going to be able to visit your parents. You're not going to be visit your nobody. Like, why take that risk? Just chill the fuck out.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. And now this guy probably got to Italy, and who knows? Fucking, he's like, I should have just stayed in Texas, fucking eating some barbecue, riding bikes, help paint some helmets. Shit.
Now he's confined, and the police would ticket him if he goes out of the street.
Yeah, Europe, they're giving a $600 fine if they catch you outside. You can't even leave your own house.
Dude, it's, the whole virus thing, the progression that's taken place here has been, it's been normal as fuck. Like in Dallas City, like I'm 25 miles south of the downtown Dallas, and we're like at the cusp of the country and the suburbs, but we're on a county out. So we never got quarantined the kind of way that the cities did. So we, the restaurants are closed, takeout only, but for the most part, we were still having parties.
You guys were doing takeout anyways.
Yeah, exactly. So it was, it was kind of normal for us here, but yeah, it's a crazy mess, man. Like and now, the conspiracy theories are rolling out, and the flooding of what's true and what's not true and what makes sense and what doesn't make sense is now, owning the airways. And it just makes it hard to navigate life anymore with all this, what's the agenda? What's the point? What's this? Like, you know what I mean? With all the shit going on.
Yeah,
so
it's madness.
I don't know.
The last one I heard was today that COVID-19 is the COV stands for Certificate of Vaccination. And then the ID, COVID, identification. And then 19 is AI. You know how Hell's Angels is 81? It's the 8th letter and, the whatever.
Oh,
so
yeah.
AI is that 19, Oh,
so that's a good one.
Yeah, I was like, oh shit, it makes too much sense. But fuck, man, we don't know what's happening. Nobody does. I don't think it's that serious anymore. I think keeping people at home is obviously against our constitution, and I don't think it's gonna last much longer. LA's already opening up little by little. People are already leaving their fucking houses. They don't even care. Traffic's already starting. But
so we've been open.
Like the no traffic in LA. It
was 2-3 months great for a little bit.
Is fucking amazing. And then the you have to be 6 feet away is pretty good because it's a good reason to be 6 feet away from your wife. Like following the laws, honey.
Yeah.
Sorry.
What I'm kind of predicting and noticing is we've been open for about 2 weeks now with like dine-in a sense. We're only 25%. But the fact that people have been cut off from being able to do these simplistic things, and now that they're opening it up, and most places aren't opening up because it's not worth it as far as there's financially, it makes them no money to open up 25% of their capacity when most restaurants can't even afford, or they struggle with 100% capacity. Right. So I think, and I'm included in this because I know how I've been feeling lately, as I've just wanted to sit down and have chips and salsa and a goddamn enchilada from a place, and people aren't opening, or they're not doing this, and they're not doing that. And it's like, well, what the fuck, man? Like, either like this shit doesn't make sense. Just fucking do it or don't. You know what I mean? And I think more people are going to have way more anger and be way more fuel to fucking, riot, if you will, because of the fact that half the shit, half the shit, it's like it's a tease, man. Like, hey, here's the life you used to live, Remember, you can only live at 25%. Yeah. My wife does hair for a living. She's a barber, you know what I mean? And so they just opened up barbershops here, but the way that they're making her have to do her job now, fuck that. I would rather just quit. Like, it's horrible. I don't know if I don't know how to cut hair, but just knowing from her and what I see.
We all got the same haircut, so we obviously don't.
Yeah, we all do, right? I got a buzzer. Ain't no one scissoring nothing on my head. But they want her to wear rubber gloves to do the haircuts now. Like, it's a feel thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you need to be able to feel the hair and feel it through your fingers. And when you put that layer of a rubber glove, I feel like people are going to have shitty fucking haircuts, or she's going to fucking slice her finger open and other things like that.
Or she's going to cut the glove in the first, cut that she does.
And the guys, the people getting their haircut have to wear masks. Right.
Right.
You know how fucking hard it's going to be to cut someone's hair when you got straps hanging around their ears and shit? Like, it makes no sense.
Yeah, it's fucking, it's such a fucked up situation. I don't know where it's going to end. I don't know how far it's going to get. And the scary part is I know things are opening up. I think now we're at phase 2. You know, they created a 4 phase for you know, Los Angeles, but they were saying phase 3 is months away. It's like, fuck, businesses are sinking.
People are going to get fed up. You know what the weird thing about it is? I don't know how you guys can take this, I mean, your opinion on it, but I feel like every year in my life, or as I've gradually gotten older, I've realized that nobody is really doing things like, you know, when you're in high school, you just feel like your parents have it figured out, right?
Yeah.
Or adults in general have it figured out, you know? You might not agree with them, but they have it figured out. Like life is okay down the road. And the older you get, like, okay, my parents didn't know what the fuck was going on.
I don't know what the fuck.
Now,
Not at all, man.
then you start working somewhere and you feel like your boss or you know, the owner of the company has it figured out. And then you get in your 30s, like that motherfucker's stupid too.
You don't have.
And now I'm going through that phase where, okay, our government is full of shit now, dude. I don't trust them. I
Nobody
think
knows.
they're dumb.
So the thing is, man, and this opened my eyes a lot. My grandpa was dying, and he's a guy that I always, since I was like a little kid, I always admired crazy. And barely like 2 months before he died, I asked him, I was like, so do you feel like you're 87 years old or 80 or 85 years old? I don't remember exactly. And he's like, no fucking way. Inside of myself, I'm still 17 or 19 and I have no fucking idea what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh fuck, that is so fucked up because we're following orders. Bro, the top of the army has no fucking idea what he's doing.
Nobody knows what the fuck they're
Exactly.
doing. Yeah, my mom's 73 years old, and she has her moments. She acts like a little kid. She acts like a 13-year-old, 14-year-old kid at times. Like, I want this, maybe this, I want that. And then if you get into an intellectual conversation, she's a very smart adult. But when it comes to making, you know, executive decisions and life decisions and career decisions, it's a child.
Yeah. And there's just so many, you know, like I feel pretty young. You know, I have an 18-year-old daughter, and my daughter, you know, like I've done a lot of cool shit with her. She kind of looks at me kind of like I'm cool, I guess. But what kids her age are doing, you know, fuck, I don't get it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what's cool for those dudes. They're on TikTok and that kind of shit now. I'm like, I can't do that. You know what I mean? So what I'm getting at is that the distance between people in power and the generations coming up. And so you got, you know, a lot of people that are young and in college that are just starting to understand all the problems that the adults never figured out. And you get all this shit we've had the last couple of years, all this Me Too and social justice warrior and all this other crazy shit that I'm so happy doesn't exist right now because it was a fuckery of our country.
Yeah.
You know,
it was
and,
pretty bad.
yeah, it was bad. It, you know, and I don't know, man. I don't think that, like, you know, as a millennial, as a first generation millennial, like 82, I think it's 81 is the first year of it. I don't feel like my generation, you know, millennial in respects, has ever really had any real adversity in life. And this is probably the first one. And it's probably the first one for maybe even my mom's generation. She was born in 63. She was only 8 whenever like the Vietnam War and shit came on. So it's like, I don't know if that would really affect her generation like someone in her 20s or 30s would have affected. You know what I mean? So it's really weird time, man. Like this is crazy. And what's even more crazier is like, what happens after this thing? Like, does this turn into some real conflict with other countries? Does our country fall apart because of the already divided line between everything? Like, it's a very scary time to be alive right now to see how this shit plays out. You know what I mean?
I think what makes it even more scarier is the simple fact that we have access to too much information. And, you know, like you said, your mom was 6 years old at the Vietnam War, but, you know, it was on the news, but her parents probably shut it off or told her to play with her, you know, Barbies or whatever the case was.
Yeah.
The thing is, right now, a 7-year-old and 8-year-old has access to all the, you know, the president said, grab her by the pussy, you know, so-and-so said this, they shot this, they did that. You know? Twitter, Instagram, porn, you know, like there's so much access to people that I think it's too much, and there's no way of controlling it ever. And I think that's so then you get the conspiracies, and you get the fucking Bill Gates is trying to fucking take our brains, and you know the ID 2020, like there's fucking too much. I mean, there's a whole platform on YouTube. Joe Rogan talks about it all the time of flat earthers. I think they say people under the age of 35 years old, there's like 50% or 60% believe the world's flat.
That's crazy.
Well, there is one way of looking at it, and I look at this from a person that was raised 25 years in another country in Spain, and then came here, and I've been here for 8 or 9. And I look at the US, and it's mind blowing to me how people can believe what they tell them and not question it. You know, and when even you question something, they're like turn around. They kind of like block, and they're like, no, that you should not talk about that. This is a conversation we don't have here. You know, like and I've learned to through just looking at what people don't want to talk about, assume that the after consequences of an act is what the quote unquote conspiracy was about. You know, that's the right version of them. And I'm going to put one that is really, really controversial. 9/11, right? The only way for me to look at 9/11 is it was an incredible terrorist attack, if you want to call it that way. There's definitely other conspiracies. But the result was a war against a country that they claimed, you know, that was the source of the attack. There's no way that we can prove that, but we for sure can prove that there was a war after. Yeah, so there's something there. And if there's a conspiracy that says maybe this was implanted so there could be a war, you know, maybe it's not 100% incorrect, you know?
Well, not only that, but you had the whole, you know, they found the pilot that to hijack the plane. They found his passport, you know, on a New York street. So the hijacker flew a plane, crashed it into the Twin Towers, and in all that rubble, they found his passport. You know, like
they couldn't find the plane, but
Building 4 lit up on fire without a plane crashing into it. It was like 2-3 blocks away. You know,
I remember that day that happened. I was driving to work, and I remember it was that, you know, I said what I said a while ago about that might be the first time in my generation, but I guess I forgot 9/11. You know, it sucks to say that, but I remember that time sitting there and how that felt. I just graduated high school 3 months before that, you know, and you know, the weird thing about it, like when you look at how divided our country's been for the last couple of years, due to whatever reason, call it because nobody liked the president we had or whatever, many reasons people decide that, you know, we have to fight each other. Right. I just hope that we're like that country that's going to fight with each other, bicker like siblings, if you will. But assuming if somebody comes and fucks with us, I hope that we have the nerve or the smarts to get it together and be like, oh, fuck no, you don't fuck with us. Only I fuck with that guy. You know what I mean? Right. So, and we kind of band together
we've proven to have that over and over and over again. I don't think anybody questions our military or our power or our police or, you know, our servicemen, women. I don't think anybody will ever question that. They know that fuck with America will fuck you really hard.
Exactly.
So,
and so I'm hoping that that's the case.
well, you brought up a really good point. The division of the country is playing a big role right now. Because I've lived here through the moment when Obama was president, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think there could be more of a divisive thing for the red states than a black president. And I don't think that the red people were that crazy as the liberals are right now, just because the president seems to be a person that doesn't control what he say. You know, that's the only thing you can say about this guy, about Trump, that he doesn't control what he's saying at all times, right? And that's the only thing but for the other people in the times of Obama, bro, the president was black. And that that is a big statement. And nobody was rebelling every week with protests and stuff like they're doing now with Trump. I think it's kind of crazy how the division has been augmenting through times.
Well, that's 100% a result of access of us having a place to say what we feel. You know, Facebook, when Obama first became president in 2008, I think Facebook was just on the cusp of being able to, you could get on to Facebook without, having a college email. It was within a year or two of that. I want to say it was like 07 or might've been the first year you can get on.
08, 09, I think.
It was 08, 09. Okay. So you're looking at tons of middle-aged, upper 20s, 30s, 40s, 50-year-old people finally getting this platform where they can see their old high school buddies, but then also see videos from YouTube. And it made technology a little bit more easier and accessible because it was under one place. Right. And so you get all these like things out there. And I think people have always been highly, bipartisan towards like their party. You know what I mean? All the time. It's just now, since 08 to now, we've all had a place to put a public forum, many public forums actually, to voice that. I mean, Twitter came out in 08, I believe, or something like that. So you got to kind of associate the fact that like the way we view presidents now is because of everybody being able to talk and put all this information out, which might be dropping, pieces of doubt in everybody's mind or whatever. Like you listen to all the conspiracies that take place. It's like, fuck, man, that was a really well thought out thing that makes perfect sense.
Right.
Can't really deny it.
Right.
Whether it's true or not.
That is the problem. The problem is they're so well produced. Some of these videos and some of these ideas that people are trying to, make these videos, they put so much time and research into it that they make it sound like, fuck, this is the truth. This is, the world is flat.
The flat earthers.
The moon is fake, fucking whatever the case is, that you can't. The problem is because there's so much information out there and they can mold it however they want. You can't believe just that. And the problem is some people do believe just that. And then what also happens is once you have one person, convince, then another person starts falling into the rabbit hole and then they make a video. And now all of a sudden there's 4 or 5 videos saying the same thing. And it's like, come on, guys, there's more information. There's more proof showing that that's not true than saying it is true on whatever the topics are. Also, back to the president. Trump is obviously the first president that has used social media. Like he is actively using Twitter. He is actively using, I don't know if he does his Instagram post. I doubt that, but like I know those messages, he has an influence of what he's saying there. So it's kind of interesting to see how that's taking place. And whenever the time comes, if another president's going to use social media the way, Donald Trump did.
Yeah, having a direct output of his brain in any moment is definitely played complicated. It's amazing, but it's definitely played a complicated
It's absolutely
role.
amazing. Somebody sharing their thoughts, hey, I feel this.
Without a comedy of somebody just filtrating what he should say publicly and stuff, it will be amazing.
Yeah,
Imagine Bush using Twitter. It will be amazing.
That would be outstanding, yeah.
Yeah, I have 2 kids. I have a 9-year-old and a 18-year-old, and both of them are mixed, with black. So I have 2 kids that when Obama got, elected, I felt proud that my daughter, who was the only one alive at the time, could see, that I don't know how to say this without sounding kind of, I want her to feel like, no matter what, her heritage on both sides is, progressed to where like she can be a winner on no matter what, where she's at. She's the best of both worlds, more or less. And like I said, he was a very elegant president, man. Like really was.
Nobody was better than him. The way he spoke and the way he carried himself. Please, he was.
I didn't know,
etiquette.
Man. I was on MySpace trying to get laid, dude. I wasn't trying to follow the drones and the shit that was taking place. And that's completely my fault, for not
or
knowing
the
or caring.
And
yeah. But what it boils down to now that I'm in my 30s and business is a thing and like, how do I grow a business or, what's the point of growing this business when, if I hire employees and now I have, all this shit I got to pay that I can't afford to. I can't afford to pay someone who does not know how to do their job $15 an hour, period.
Or spend the money training them, hoping they'll
it's going to cost me.
And then finding out, they took another job for $25 and, bled you out some money.
the bottom line is I feel like most rational people in the world look at both sides of what these parties are made up on. And I think that they all find a common ground in between both of them. You know, some people might feel a lot more strongly about some of the hotter topics like abortion or welfare or whatever. But I think most of it falls down the middle to rational people to where they can be like, all right, so like, we don't want the government in our shit, but we also want to be able to make money and grow our businesses and become wealthy or failures on our own terms. And you know what I mean? So it's just a weird world, man. It's like, I don't think that most of our country was founded on the fact that like, we're going to have social media and everybody can say what they want and everybody can do this. The craziest thing is, and I probably shouldn't say this on a podcast, but it felt like people had more balls back in the 60s and 50s. Like if they didn't like the president, they went after him.
Why wouldn't you say that? That's
like this,
truth.
you know, and then now all they do is repost and retweet and redo this. And I feel like it's just a bunch of pussies. Like if you feel like that way, do something about it. You know what I mean? Let me
tell you something. I've read so much ignorant, dumb, stupid shit online that I've only seen it online. I have never in my fucking life seen anybody else walk up to somebody and express something that I've seen online the way they express it. It's so absurd. They're hiding behind the computer. They're hiding behind their user ID. They're hiding behind their phones. It's bullshit.
This is true.
And this is why you can't read those comments. This is why you can't interact. This is why there's just bullies. They're not even bullies. They're actually, that's funny because I always wanted to see how I can, describe this, but I always talk about the new bullies. The old school bullies would be, the bigger guys picking on the smaller guys. And, every now and then there'd be a beating up and, it's a terrible thing. I think bullying is terrible, but that was the old school bullying. But the new bullying, the new bullies that I see now, I can't fucking stand them. And it's all these motherfuckers that, I have freedom of speech, and they go to their police and they say, fuck you, pig. You don't know how to do your job. I pay your taxes. You work for me. Like that kind of bully of like, people instigating fights, but then they're hiding behind the law, like, fuck your motorcycle. Your motorcycle's fucking loud and you should turn that shit down. And you're like, what are you saying, bro? Like, fuck off. You can't talk to me like that. Like there's some people fighting for certain rights that they would never do, but because there's these laws that they can like
hide behind.
They're in. I call them new bullies. Those are the new bullies for me, and I can't fucking stand the new bullies.
One of the greatest things about being a biker is that I think that most of us especially in the Harley world, is that a lot of us aren't that way. You know what I mean? Unless you bring your wife around, which might be that way. But most of us dudes are like, like we get on our bike and we just want to fucking drink beer and shoot the shit and complain about life a little bit here and there and just fucking, go about it. Like we're not trying to be like, hey bro, do you see the bathrooms? They don't have a fucking neutral bathroom, dude. We cannot come back here anymore. You know what I mean? Right. Like that's not really a problem.
About, like Prius drivers,
like, fuck
yeah. That's not really a problem that I think that most of us as bikers kind of find ourselves in, those kind of dilemmas where, we just don't like it. I feel like it's not as prominent in our industry. So I think we're kind of sheltered from it a little bit, but I don't know, with these electric bikes coming out, that might bring all the pussies. So we'll see how that works.
Yeah. We got to see how that fucking plans out. We definitely got to see how that plans out. Are there any electric companies out there right now?
For motorcycles or just cars in general?
No, motorcycles. Like out here in California, we have Zero.
Zero, yeah.
Zero?
Yeah, Zero and basically Harley.
I'll be honest with you.
And then Harley just started, theirs.
I haven't, I don't have much of an opinion on that or much of a, like I was never interested in it, I'll be honest with you, the fairing looks cool. I'd take the small little nacelle fairing they have and put it on a different bike, but I don't have a desire to have that bike. And if that's the direction.
Hypothetically, if you were able to pick it up for 10 grand, would you get it? Yes or no?
Absolutely not. I would not 100%.
So zero.
There's no desire in it for me. There's nothing appealing about it. I had the opportunity to go ride one at a dealership and still, I would rather work than go ride that bike. There's just nothing about it that, Now, I could be completely biased and completely just sitting here with my arms crossed, pouting, but it could be an amazing ride. I don't know, but you know, Harley Davidson has a soul, and that soul is that bike tapping all your senses. You know, smelling the gas and oil, feeling the vibrations, hearing the vibrations, or hearing the noise, and feeling the, you know, those all come from touching that motorcycle. And when you don't have a sound, when it doesn't even sound like it's, you know what I mean? Like you lose a lot of that. The only thing you feel is the road.
I'm curious about to see how the new engine from the Pan America
it works, I am as well.
Because with the Milwaukee 8 they reduced a lot of the vibration. And I mean, slowly they are cutting off a little bit what you're saying. That is the soul of Harley Davidson. Because
the new bikes.
Do we know what motor? Is it counterbalance? Is it going to be?
It's a brand new one.
To my knowledge, it's going to be.
Is it mounted counterbalance?
To my knowledge, the new motor, which I don't know a lot of information about, but the water cooled and the overhead cams are going to allow for it to make a lot more horsepower than a single or a twin cam, push rod setup. And the water cool is going to make for a much higher horsepower motor as well. Like I said, I'm not an expert. I'm just regurgitating fucking shit I've heard. But the new motor, like I said, these new bikes that are coming out with the Pan American stuff, I look at that as like, I kind of have a little bit more respect for that type of progression, because they're trying to, advance in their market, but still look, I'm glad they're making an electric bike. It's just not for this market or for me and my hoodlum friends. It's just not. I don't think so.
No, I get that 100%. That they should still make it. They should still pursue this as a smart company. But they really should have put a pause and before getting this started, they should finish tuning up what they currently have. True. But that's not happening. Now that they got it out, I think I haven't taken it out in a spin. I honestly don't even have a thought on it, other than $33,000 for a bike that goes 100 miles. Not cool.
And mind you, you're still buying electronics. And if we can tell you anything about electronics, who wants to buy a 7-year-old iPhone right now? Because that's how long it's going to take you to pay that motherfucker off.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And the price range. So that's why I was asking jokingly, but being serious at the same time. For 10 grand, would you buy it? For 10 grand, I probably would be like, you know what? Fuck it. I'll give it a try. But $33,000. Come on. Who are we kidding?
I think it's just too far from Harley Davidson. They've done no one step, but two at once. They decided to go. Remember those Harley Davidsons that we make that are loud and look classic? Well, now we're doing a Street Fighter that is electric, and you're like, what? What the heck happened here? I think they should have experimented a little bit to put, an electric engine on a street bob. Something that was more appealing, at least physically, to the.
Well, the other thing we got to understand, and we got to accept this, guys, is that the younger generation you were talking about, that we were agreeing on, they're not jumping on bikes right now.
There's nothing cool about it to them. In my opinion, you as bigger companies, like as my company, I have to make these helmets desirable for people to want them. Not just do them, not just offer a $2,000 helmet. You got to feel like you're buying into like a club. Feel like you're buying into this more like niche based group of people, like this tribalistic kind of. You got to tap into that. And with the new Harleys, instead of reinvesting and finding ways to help market more of their stuff into mainstream, like helping funnel money into the actual industry of motorcycles to be more appealing. Maybe they should have somebody on the board to get more states to legalize lane splitting, to make it more a part of everybody's day-to-day culture. More people would buy motorcycles if they could commute that way. There's so many other ways that motorcycling can become more popular in America. But with the way like corporations are working, they're only concerned about how least they can spend and how much money they can make. And so what I'm saying is they're not investing in the actual culture we have here. They have no investment in it. They hire, you have all these amazing people out here, creating Harley based content that makes their shit popular for many people. And yet they go find people in colleges that have never ridden a bike, and they're trying to throw them on there to make them bikers instead of using the people that are already passionate about this stuff out here and helping them spread their message, because their message is authentic and real. You know, there's a lot of ways you can look at maybe a different way of making motorcycles appealing to other people. And sometimes it's not about the bike that they're buying. It's about what they're buying into. And
right. But I do believe the current people you're talking about, us, we know that already. And there's no, I'm talking business wise. There's no point of marketing to an audience that's already committed to the brand and the lifestyle, you know, because they're going to continue buying. The marketing strategy is, why the fuck are people under 30 years old not interested in Harleys?
Because they haven't seen anything that interests them about it.
Right. But
we grew up with
what is that? Is that movies? You know, there's not enough motorcycles in movies. Is that
100%?
We're not promoting lifestyle, but I mean, with social media and Instagram, like for me, for example, the reason I would think why that's a little slow right now is because we're in a shared economy, and we're in a spot where I can get an Uber, imagine being 18 years old right now. You can have a fucking Uber take you wherever you want. You can get a girl by swiping fucking left or right. You can order something on Amazon and get instant gratification delivered to your house. Like that's interesting. Like that's already enough reasons that if I was 18, maybe I wouldn't even be thinking about motorcycles, because I'd be like, fuck, I got Tinder and I got Uber.
Plus you add what you said before, that the old bully is not cool anymore.
Right. And then the old bully. Yeah, exactly. The old,
because we are a representation of the old bully.
So
I don't know.
This is a wild theory. This is a wild theory that might play out, but I feel like many of us, maybe not you guys, but many of us hit our 30s and we all question, we all had that form of midlife crisis, maybe not crazy enough to go buy a yellow Corvette, but we all have that point in our life where we really question the first 15 years of our adulthood and the decisions we made. Are we doing things? Are we living the life that we thought we would have as a kid, as a young adult? Are we anywhere close to this idea of success? And for some people that might be like, fuck man, like a motorcycle used to be that yellow Corvette for some people, and they would find that passion. And, it just wasn't appealing when you're in college and you see these dirtbag dudes coming to the bar, being assholes and stealing and grabbing your chick's ass. You know what I mean? That might be their motorcycle taste of watching, Harley Davidson and the Marlboro Man or some shit.
Right.
When's the last time you had a cool movie motorcycle related that didn't come off like a very exclusive type of situation to get into?
Well, tell me, when was the last time you saw a motorcycle in a movie?
Well, I think it was Venom.
Venom? You?
Yeah, Venom. I mean, you could say that was in there.
Mission Impossible.
I wish the helmet was kind of cool though.
Yeah, Mission Impossible was cool, but like when you see something that's more like,
but Harley, yeah,
John Wick,
John Wick,
more based around motorcycles in a sense. Like honestly, like Sons of Anarchy probably did so much for our industry that all the cool guys don't want to say it did. Bottom line is that show was interesting and fun. Huh?
It so did. It changed everything. Sales went up, and the Dyna Bros are out now because of it. Like it changed. Yeah, it really sparked up.
That show, along with guys like Unknown and the Willie scene, made Harley Davidson's popular amongst the early 20-year-olds. In my opinion, now those numbers might not reflect Harley because these dudes are buying fucking Dynas that they're 01s and 02s and 03s and 09s. They're not buying brand new Softails, but it might just be that dip of that investment you need to make as a company to build your clientele. If they love the Harley so much, then they're eventually going to buy a new one if they, grow into it. Dude, I couldn't.
Harley was so not aware of this that the first season of Sons of Anarchy was not backed up by Harley. Bobby was riding a Triumph until second season when he jumped in.
That's true.
It's crazy that there is a show that is going to be based only and purely on motorcycles, and Harley doesn't say, this is my chance. That is mind-blowing.
Well, a lot of people these days like to support you after you make it successful. They don't want to take the time to invest in people anymore, Like everybody wants to be on the podcast after I've already done 100 of them,
right.
After I've already put in the work, but some people didn't care to do it at the beginning, So the same thing with the show. It's like they went ahead and made it, and now Harley wants to be on it. So if they would have helped make it, if Harley was there to help, they probably get a much better deal on those marketing negotiations as they did when they didn't help. And then came along. You know, one of the best motorcycle things I ever watched was the Long Way Round and Long Way Down with the Ewan McGregor and Charlie Boorman. Best shit. And one of the best things they said in there is that KTM turned down working with them on those bikes, giving them bikes, and BMW did. And now you look at BMW over the last almost 20 years now is hands down the adventure bike on the road. It's the Cadillac of adventure bikes. And a lot of that has got to do with the marketing of a show like that was wildly popular.
Absolutely. I think I mentioned this before in other podcasts, but I also believe the problem with Harley Davidson is they're focusing on the stockholders.
Yeah,
they're not focusing on the riders. They're not focusing on the dealerships. You know, the dealerships are all privately owned. They're all franchised. And I think Harley, you know, so think about it. As a rider, Harley's bringing out an electric bike. You, him, me, we're like, why the fuck? What's the point? You know, we don't care. The bikes are fine. Continue making what you're making and make them better. Bigger motors, you know, ABS, traction control, whatever the case is.
Interfaces like Apple CarPlay.
Interface with the, thank you, right? I got a 2020, you got a 2019, and we don't even have an interface. They said they can flash it. But anyways, the point is I think, and I've heard this from many franchise owners, they're so focused on the stockholder. By introducing a new bike, the stockholders say, holy shit, that's great. Let's invest some more. Now they bring the Pan America. Oh, that's awesome. And then they go and they're doing this. And every bike they release, the stockholder gets excited. But then they're allocated to each dealership. So dealerships are practically forced to buy them. So then Harley says, see, look, all those bikes we made, they're sold. So now stocks continue going up. And now all the decisions are all business decisions and not rider decisions. And I think that's the biggest problem that we're having and dealing with Harley Davidson.
Yeah, I mean, it's...
I'm not sure if that's the fact, but that's what I've heard. That's what makes sense. That's what kind of explains everything that's going on right now.
Yeah, and I mean, dude, I know this is probably a very ignorant way of looking at business, but, you know, if motorcycles aren't selling as hardcore as they used to, dial it back, bro. You know, my business was not doing great as a full-fledged balls to the wall business. I dialed it back. I'm putting out quality products and I'm making a good living. And if they can find a way to fluctuate their business with the times, which I don't know if that's possible with shareholders and that type of shit, but maybe it should be. You know, maybe they should loosen up the restrictions on their dealership franchises and allow them to sell aftermarket parts and maybe inspire more people to want to buy
and not
their bikes because
they opened up their own Amazon store. I said this 1,000 times, but how can Harley Davidson open up an Amazon part store and take away business from their franchise owners? Like, how fucked up is that?
Where are those hardcore badass motherfuckers of the 60s that would go up to the CEO and bust him in his fucking mouth? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Those are the kind of things you need, you know, but yeah, like that, people are going to continue to be greedy and it'll be the death of a lot of things. But I think that Harley will survive. Honestly, I think
they will.
If anything, somebody will buy it and that does want to keep it alive once it's kind of gone down to pennies on the dollar.
Maybe we should buy it.
One day.
Yeah.
we should fucking absolutely buy it.
We go back to those bicycles with engine, with the first ones in 1903.
It's really tough, man. Like it's hard to, you know, I don't feel like I'm ever going to have to worry about things like that. You know, I mean, I do. The motor company needs to stay alive, you know, for a lot of reasons, but for some fucking crazy reason, they didn't. There's so many bikes out there. We're going to be good for a while.
No, we're absolutely going to be. Here's the thing. I've traveled. I've traveled to China, India. I've traveled to South America. All these countries, scooters and motorcycles are the number one ways of transportation. It's insane how many scooters and motorcycles you see outside of the United States. It's, from what I've seen, I would easily say it's 50-50. I want to say more, to be honest, but I'm going to say I can easily say 50-50 to the countries that I've been, that I see scooters and motorcycles as the number one form of transportation. So, you know, the U.S. is obviously, that's why when Harley opened up their factory in India, last year, 2 years ago. 2 years ago, they ended up no. When Trump came in, I think a year later, they ended up making a factory in India. And
but that was for overseas.
But
bikes,
that's for overseas bikes, exactly. That's because of the exporting laws and stuff. That's not to make American bikes. I'm not saying that they would never do that. At least they haven't done that. But they opened it up for overseas bikes to sell to Europe, China, whatever, all those other places. But those factories, I bet you, are killing it. I bet you are killing it, and they have no issues. They're not even concerned about this conversation that we're currently having.
Yeah, and they're probably also making a surplus that's not ridiculous, like they're not overproducing and with the expectations of like having growing numbers every year. I mean, they may be, I don't know, but like the market for Harley over there is very popular, but with all the licensing laws for a lot of those states or those countries and bigger CC engines, it's very complicated for people to get their hands on.
Oh, not only that, but remember, one of the benefits of the United States has is we have financing. We can finance whatever the fuck we want. Over there, if you see somebody riding a Harley, they're fucking balling. They spent $30,000-$40,000 cash.
Holy shit.
Cha-ching. Like, I like it. I have the money. Here it is. And you got to give more credit to them.
Sometimes I do get a little of hate from Instagram of reality, because I get a private message from somebody in India and they're like, "Hey man, do you like your BMW?" And I was like, "Man, I love it." He's like, "Well, I've been thinking about one for a long time." I was like, "Yeah, you should buy it, bro." And he's like, "This is India. Yeah, remember? We don't get paid here. That's a $25,000 motorcycle. That's not something that I can buy like that." Is it?
Yeah, man. That's the thing about it all, dude. It's stressful. I mean, you add the ups and downs that every company is going to be taking right now. I mean, think about this just on the step side, but think about how much products out there for the car industry, the race industry in general, that make their money off the fact that races take place, that NASCAR takes place, that all those little smaller events take place. And with them not doing it, companies are going to struggle. Like, I feel like most of the motorcycle shops that are, small mom and pop style shops, brick and mortar or online parts sales, we're doing good. But the manufacturers that are out there that have to produce hundreds of helmets to fill race car drivers, they're hurting because no races, no helmets go out, for those industries. You know what I mean? And so I think that, with all the shutdown shit taking place, it ain't that those factories are shut down. It's just that there's nobody buying the shit. So eventually we might not have seen like the worst of our economic downturns until maybe another month or 2 or 3 months from now. You know what I mean? It could be, I don't know, man. That's what scares me is the down the road thing of a lot of the things in the motorsports industries taking a huge hit in the long run.
Yeah, I think most events, most races, most NASCAR, most Daytonas, I think pretty much everybody's canceled out for this year.
Yeah.
I think now we're scheduled, I believe that now we're scheduled for next year, and a lot of people are going to lose a lot of fucking, already a lot of people have lost a lot of fucking money,
Yeah. And there's no bailouts for those guys. You know what I mean? And they're small industries and they're big industries, but they're small in comparison to, the ones that are going to get bailed out. You know what I mean? Like it's scary.
Look, so we're not getting towards the end on such a negative note. Whatever needs to fucking take place needs to take place. This is America, and we always come out of it fucking strong. World War I, World War II, Vietnam, whatever the fucking case is, we always find a way to overcome it and get things done financially. We just got through 2008 not too long ago. Everybody says we're never going to recover from that. We recovered and we're stronger than ever. And now same thing.
Yeah.
This is going to be tough. It's going to be challenging. It's going to be difficult. But I promise you, in a year from now, we're not going to be laughing, but we're going to be in a better place. And hopefully things will be that much closer to being normal again. Forget a year ago, 6 months from now. That's what I'm calling.
Yeah.
We're in May
I
now.
totally agree.
Fucking I say November, everything will be back to normal, and we'll be riding by then too. And we're riding now, but I'm saying you'll be in California. We'll be riding
for sure.
So I think that's what
I have a question for both of you guys.
Okay.
what would you guys think if Harley would have decided to take off all those 4 gauges that you guys have in your street light and rock light and put a Tesla screen there to substitute all that shit?
An LCD screen. So instead of our gauges, our speed, tack, gas, oil, if it was just an LCD screen, do you think that'd be super awesome or super distraction?
Or it will kill the spirit.
And it plays
feel
Netflix. No, I'm kidding. Not the Netflix part.
Nah. I don't know if I would want to see it all in one center. You know what I mean? Like, but
no, it'd be
like,
divided up. Like, I don't know. Like, if you look at the Mercedes, their dash is just a screen.
It's digital, yeah.
But when it powers on, it's it could still show the exact same thing. There's a switch, and it'll still be old school. But
I don't want to pay $50,000 for a bike for that CVO model.
Yeah,
that happens on.
You're fucking true. That's easily a fucking $5,000 markup.
You know, if that's a $3,000 set of gauges compared to the $800 gauges that are upgraded into the CVOs.
Gauges. That's not even worth $3,000 in gauges.
Imagine somebody crashing and breaking it. Jesus.
No, so, and then your bike's out. Right? Imagine somebody just slapping it around with a beer bottle or something. The
fact that they haven't made firmware or program updates or whatever the term is to make a more interfaceable system, like to me it's hard to type in shit on your navigation to go places. Like, dude, how come I can't just swipe my phone up to it like a TV these days? So if I pull up Google Maps on my phone and I find the location, how come it can't interface to my phone and swipe up and then it's right there on it?
They just blocked it intentionally.
Yeah.
Why? I have no idea. But there's even a flash they were talking about that the dealers can do, but they're not supposed to do it, so they don't.
Now they block them, man.
Yeah, now they block them. That was the thing. They had a flash. Dealers would flash your bike.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that.
Get the Apple Car, and you could totally do that. But why did they do it? I have no fucking idea. Because they're trying to create an app, and they want you to download their app and use their app. And the problem is their app, BMW's app, Harley's app, they suck. I don't want to have 2 more apps on my phone. I want to use my phone with your motorcycle. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, we already are putting our phones on the damn RAM mounts, and not that I don't really like the look of having my huge ass. Yeah, I do.
We use quad locks.
I've been looking into that because the footprint left behind once I take my phone off is not as noticeable than a big claw.
Yeah.
But the whole idea is like I have these compartments where I would much rather put my phone in there, right? If it really interfaced, if I could literally put my phone in there and I don't have to have it in front of my face, I feel like my phone's a bigger distraction than anything. Yeah. Right?
Of course.
So when you're riding down the road and you're getting fucking binged on Instagram messages and all this, you're like, fuck, I need to answer this or whatever. It's like, I'd rather put that in the cubby hole and have all the important shit pop up on my screen, like easier to get around navigation, things that actually have like
just on the driving stuff, period.
Yeah. Like just there's so many, like, I feel like I'm on the first generation of MapQuest on that fucking GPS on the bikes, when there's so much more information on the Apple CarPlay one or the Apple version of it or the Google Maps, which is what I prefer to use on everything. Even having real time, like for the most part, you get some of the cops like radaring on there. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
How nice would that be?
Waze.
Yeah, Waze, but now Google Maps has it as well. I don't think it's as good.
Well, it's funny because Waze, Google bought Waze like 6 years ago, but nobody knows that. But it's both Google.
Yeah. So yeah, that's those kind of things would be simplistic updates or upgrades to these Harleys that I feel like we should get without having to pay a CVO premium for that technology. You know what I mean? Like, these bikes are expensive. Don't get me wrong. I fucking love my bike. You know what I mean? My 2019 not CVO, but Road Glide Special. Love the bike. Yeah. Great bike.
I was going to ask, the special? I got the Street Glide Special.
Yeah. So great bike. Love it. But for that price tag, man, there really should be a little bit more emphasis on the technology. And I'm hoping that with the pressure from the Challenger that, I don't really give 2 shits about Harley's inverted front end. They can keep it for all I'm concerned with. But maybe upgrading to radial brakes would be an ideal thing. Better interface system, maybe a couple little odds and ends. The bikes look fucking phenomenal. I'm good with the looks.
What pipes did you go with?
I ended up doing the TBR, the shorty. I like the short pipes. You know, the performance bagger look is something we've been proponents for since the birth of it, if you will. And I just like that look of the bike. I like being able to see the swing arm, the rear wheel. I don't know if the TBR actually makes good power or not. I've heard it kind of robs quite a bit of power personally.
Yeah, I was going to ask, did you dyno it and get results?
No, I never did. I ended up running a Thundermax, which does all the self-tuning type thing. I'm not a nerd for the power and stuff. It feels good. Putting a cam in those bikes puts it to where it should have been stock. Yeah, it sounds great. I mean, that's one of the things that sucks about Harley is their what was the all the detuning they had to do these bikes to meet regulations and shit like that. So you basically
get that in California for fucking years.
Yeah. So you get like the 114 and it comes with 86 horsepower stock and like 90 something or 105 torque or something like that. So it has the illusion of it's fast as fuck, but realistically it falls off later on in the power band. But you throw a cam in that bike and it immediately wakes it up to 105 and like 120 torque. And you feel like this is the way it should have came when you were selling me a 114. Yeah. And then, you know, from there, I should have been able to throw another cam in there to get me closer to 120. But like I said, man, like it, you know, they're like the bad relationship that's really good at sex. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's a great way to describe it.
Yeah. It's like, you're just like, fuck,
like,
man. Like, why are you so good?
You're so fucking good in bed. And like, fuck.
You have none of the qualities that I need for a wife, but goddamn, you're fun to have sex with. Yeah. You know what I mean?
The thing you do with your tongue, god damn it. Fuck.
Yeah. Fuck it. God, I gotta go ride you.
Yeah, that Harley does that. It is love and hate. It is a love and hate relationship. Besides Harley, this is one of Jaime's favorite questions. I'll ask it. Harley doesn't exist. It never existed. You don't know Harley. What motorcycle would you choose? I kind of butchered the question, but you can fix it if you want.
Well,
but that's the. What would you be riding if there was no Harley?
I mean, if there just was no Harley today, I'd probably be on some form of an adventure bike. But I do like I am kind of motivated with the way things look more than the way they. Not more, but my first thing is that curb appeal. You know what I mean? And I'm in love with the BMWs, the GS 1200s. Just their stance, their aggressiveness. I love that look. You know, a lot of people are talking about the Africa Twin, some of the KTMs, and I just don't feel like they have that same kind of sinister look that I like in a bike. You know, I rode sport bikes for a lot of my life, but I can never have fun on there legally at all.
At all. I agree with you 100%.
So
even car wise,
and
I can't
when I
drive
was
a sports car in the fucking street legally, like that's not going to happen.
So my whole 20s was like getting away with murder basically. And, you know, as I got older and like, you know, you don't play your odds as much anymore when you get in your 30s, I think, at least not for me. And so the Harley just made sense. And plus I got bored with it, man. And, you know, motorcycles for me, it's like, I have to find something to inspire me to want to keep doing this because, you know, for me, the last 10 years has been traveling on bikes. And I don't see, I go to California every year and I'm like, fuck, this is so fun and exciting. And I do it every year. I do the same thing every year and it's still as amazing as it was the first time I did it. You know what I mean?
Disneyland.
Yeah. So, but I don't know, man. Like to me, it's all about whatever I can travel on, you know, and right now I guess I'm so biased because everything I want is Harley based. I like those old like cafe style, like Triumphs and shit. Like I'm into that shit, but I just don't know if it would, you know,
fit the lifestyle.
I don't know, man. Like,
yeah, it's a hard question. What about the Indians?
Oh, I'm not a fan at all.
Yeah. I'm not that big of a fan.
It's not that
I've taken a few out for a spin. I wasn't performance handling, sound, nimbleness. I didn't like them.
For me, it's like, I think I'm a little bit pissed off more at how many fake ass people I've met. And I mean this in the friendliest way possible.
That sounds very friendly.
Yeah. Well, that's the worst way to do it. When Indians started dropping these new products, they were also dropping checks to people to influence their bikes for them. And so a lot of those dudes that were getting checks, when you meet them in person and you talk about the bike, they would still be riding a Harley if those checks if those checks bounced, then they're off the bikes. And so, to me, I feel like that's kind of like selling your soul for a check. You know what I mean? Which I don't know. I don't like that. I think that if Indian built a really nice bike that gave everybody the same feeling, then, you know, maybe they wouldn't have to pay people to ride them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But their bikes could be amazing. The FTR looks like a fun ass bike to ride. The Challenger probably, you know, stylistically, I could probably get over that if it wasn't so cheaply made. When you sit on that bike and you touch the hand controls, you feel like you're touching the hand controls on a Kawasaki 500. When you open the saddlebag, you feel like you're opening your saddlebag on some aftermarket bags that Harley
cheap
would.
aftermarket
There's no
bags.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like a quality made motorcycle. Now, you do get the it's in another chick analogy, it is a attractive chick that's covered in makeup with fake tits, fake everything.
But bad fake
and then
tits.
once
Hold on, because there's some nice ones. Bad
No,
fake
yeah.
tits, a botch job.
Yeah.
It's a botch job.
Exactly. So it's the illusion of what you think you want when you buy a motorcycle. But, you know, I can buy my Harley and then I can add an inverted front end or I can add suspension to it and no big deal. But there's a joy when you buy something like that and you put it on your bike like, fuck, this is so dope. I can't wait to ride it. When you get an Indian, you have to replace gay ass bullshit like hand controls to have quality ones. You're like, yo, this is going to change my riding experience. No, it's not.
Not at all.
It just makes your shit not look cheap, you know? And it you know, you can't, you know, I'm kind of arguing an aesthetic right now, which is kind of unfair, but the bike just doesn't feel solid. It doesn't feel
Well, riding wise, I agree with you. When I've taken a few of them out for a spin, I felt like it didn't feel like a solid bike. It didn't feel like a performance bike. It didn't feel like a well planned out bike. It was all looks. It was all looks, the bearings, the grips, everything, you know, plasticky. Like I just wasn't a fan. I mean, it looks great in pictures. But you know, as a rider and for riding, you know, 20 years, if not longer, it's definitely not in my list of anything right now.
I think most lifers or most people that are in the motorcycle or motorcycling as a biker for the long run are always going to take some kind of personalization stance at their bike. Maybe not to the extent of some people with full custom bikes, but pretty much everybody buys a Harley and they make it theirs somehow. You know, the ones that don't make it theirs, they just bought it because they were looking for something to do and then it sat in the garage for 20 years and then you get a barn find FXR. That's what that is. Right. But people that really love motorcycles, they're going to jump on it. They're going to change a couple things because if they're anything like I am now, if it's the 1990s, they were in fucking hot bike and street chopper trying to find something cool to add their bike and make it represent them in some kind of way. And that's why there's such a huge culture in customizing motorcycles, because that's what we do. Yeah. That's what makes it fun. That's what makes it yours. You can buy this little bitty machine compared to a car and add all your things to it that make it yours. And Indian doesn't quite have that market for that yet.
Yeah, and that's another thing. And I think we're going to end it soon. We're at 2 hours and 50 minutes, but that's another beautiful thing. You can sell 1,000, you know, Dynas lowriders, and none of them look the same. They're all completely different. They're all styled different. They all have different bars. It's completely different. And that's one beautiful thing that Harley did do right, that they let people personalize their vehicles, their motorcycles.
Yeah, they didn't quite let us, but you know, we're bikers and we do what the fuck we want. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I'm happy they finally jumped on the train to encourage it, because there was a moment that the only way you can customize it was aftermarket, but now they're even offering nice, you know, things.
Well, yeah, they see the money in it.
Of course they see the money, but it took them a while. But I want to... Yeah, no, I was going to say, I want to thank you for letting us be on your podcast. I want to, you know, thank you for being on our podcast, and we're definitely going to have to catch up. And I think the next podcast we'll do is when you're in California, and we'll do this in person, and we'll fucking film everything if you're down.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. Like I didn't know what to expect, man. I didn't know how it was going to go. Like both of us podcasting together to release it. And Dude, I actually had a good time, man. So fuck yeah. I appreciate this guy.
Just talking like this. I mean, imagine once we do this in person with some beers.
Yeah, we're going to have to talk. We're going to have to stop. Yeah. You better not get any alcohol involved because then I'll never leave.
It'll be a 6 hour episode.
We'll do a 24-hour run. We'll do the longest podcast ever aired.
Oh yeah, dude, that'd be that. What's the Guinness Book of World Records? We need to look that up before we start this.
Let's first of all, let's look it up. But if it's 24 hours, we can fucking do that, no problem.
Yeah, for sure. Well, cool guys, I appreciate it, man. Fuck, thanks.
Thank you so much.
What's y'all's podcast for my listeners?
I have to say this: you're fucking a good dude. Continue doing the photography. Continue being as ethical as you are. Continue being you. I said it earlier. You're already a millionaire.
He's in love.
You're already a fucking millionaire. Fucking.
I appreciate that, guys.
Thank you so much.
Tell everybody on my podcast, y'all, what yours is called.
RideBoundless, the RideBoundless Podcast. You can find it. It says RideBoundless with Robert Valderrama and my good boy Jaime.
And it's you got it on
Instagram,
iTunes.
Yeah, Instagram's RideBoundless. Webpage is rideboundless.co. And then I'm working on all the other social media. But for sure, check out the Instagram. The Instagram. Again, Jaime's been doing the photography. He's been
amazing.
Fire. Yeah. Like fucking what he's been doing is amazing.
Real good.
Yeah, but they can find it in Apple Podcasts, Android Podcasts, Google. Sorry, Google Podcasts, Spotify, everywhere.
Cool. Thanks, guys. Well, yeah, appreciate it, man.
Shoot out yours real quick for everybody.
The Fast Life Podcast. Make sure you put the word "the" in front of it, and we're on everything: YouTube, all the podcast apps that I know of. I think we're on there, and yeah, we've been doing it for a while. So there's plenty of shit. There's plenty of stupid shit I've said on there. You can go critique me on if you want.
Yeah, I want to see your YouTube videos too. Please do that.
One day, soon. Hopefully.
Thank you for being here, man.
All right, brother.
All right, thank you guys. Peace.
Bye.
Hope you guys enjoyed that. I had a great time talking to him and the guys over there at Ride Boundless. If you didn't notice, this was a double podcast. So they're actually going to use this podcast for theirs as well. And then, me is whatever. So at the beginning, it does sound more like they're trying to podcast me. And I think they were for the whole time. I think I got podcasted. And yeah, sometimes that happens. But really, you guys go check them out, the Ride Boundless Podcast. I've been listening to a couple of them so far and dig it, man. It's great content and a great new perspective at the motorcycle world. So check those guys out, as well as our kick-ass sponsors, TeamDreamRides.com and at DreamRidesJohn on Instagram, Paint Huffer Metal Flake on Instagram and PaintHuffer.com, Fast Life 13 for 10% off, Thundermax EFI on Instagram and ShopTmax.com, Lexan Moto on Instagram and Lexan-Moto.com, Fast Life for 15% off your checkout there. SBC_performance. Check those dudes out. www.sbcperformance.com. Fast Life for 10% off. And last but not least, at Invisivin on Instagram and www.invisivin.com. Fast Life for 15% off your entire order. Check them out, guys. And check us out. FastLifeGarage.com. Check all the shit we're doing. Having a good time. Riding bikes. Taking pictures. Yeah, that's about it. You guys have a good week and I'll see you back next week with some more good shit. So stay up. Peace.